Chapter 375. Many martial artists were not mistaken. The mountain-splitting palm that Xiao Zuiji used with his right hand had already reached a weight of 200,000 pounds. A 6th-grade martial master with strength comparable to a 3rd-grade mid-level Wuzong was truly terrifying. However, Jun Changxiao's face was calm. Xiao Ziji's explosive strength was completely reasonable, because he had already crushed the strength-increasing talisman that he had provided for him. Although it was refined from the talisman pavilion, and could not be compared to the 5-fold strength-increasing talisman sold in the store, it could still increase his strength by 2 times. After returning from the Sacred Spring Sect, Xiao Ziji had entered the 6th grade from the 5th grade. His strength was around 90,000, so with the strength-increasing talisman and the mountain-splitting palm, it was easy to break 200,000 jin. He felt super good when he threw a punch. He felt good, but Wan Xiuxian, who could not dodge in time and was forced to retreat 6 or 7 steps, was dumbfounded. A 6th-grade martial master with strength not weaker than him. This was too scary. All the martial artists were staring with wide eyes. Even the 2 martial kings' eyes were filled with disbelief. Some martial artists were very talented, and their strength far exceeded others in the same realm. This was understandable. But a 6th-grade martial master, even if it was at the superior level, could only reach 100,000 jin at most. Unbelievable, unbelievable. How on earth did that guy cultivate? No wonder sect leader Jun dared to let him fight. He has the strength comparable to a 3rd-grade Wuzong. Everyone was shocked and disgusted. Xiao Ziji, who was in the life and death arena, felt the powerful strength. His eyes were burning, and the blood in his body was boiling violently. Fight! This was his thought, and he put it into action. He used the cloud-treading steps and rushed over again. He raised his hand and slashed. Wuxia crescent-shaped flowing light, carrying an explosive force, cut through the void and shot out explosively. Its strength reached 250,000 jin. This kind of spiritual martial technique was modified by a mysterious almighty person. It would become stronger as the user's strength increased. Wan Xiuxian saw this, and his face changed greatly. Whoosh! He tried to dodge with his body technique, but before he could stabilize his body, he heard Xiao Ziji shout, I slash, I slash, I slash, 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 slash. Whoosh! 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 3 crescent-shaped flowing lights shot out from the sky, the air and the ground, carrying a force of 250,000 jin. Everyone was dumbfounded. This kind of spiritual energy-type martial skill consumed a lot of spiritual energy. If he used it like this, wasn't he afraid that he would be paralyzed from exhaustion before he could finish off his opponent? Boom! While he was deep in thought, a loud explosion sounded. Although Wan Xiuxian dodged the first self-chop, he was still hit by the other 2 self-chop. Dang dang dang! He retreated rapidly, and when he stabilized his body at the edge of the arena with great difficulty, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Withstanding 2 powerful self-slashes at the same time, he could not avoid being injured. A martial master was able to make Wuzong vomit blood. How awesome! If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have found it hard to believe that there's someone capable of fighting above their cultivation realm. No wonder the Sacred Spring Sect lost 74 matches in a row. The Iron Bone disciples are too strong. While everyone was discussing, Xiao Ziji launched another attack. He didn't use self-slash anymore. Instead, he chose to use mountain-splitting palm and rupturing fist in close combat. This made Wan Xiuxian feel much better. However, after a while, he realized that this Iron Bone disciple was getting braver and stronger the more he fought. What made it worse was, Wan Xiuxian tried to fight back, but no matter how he fought, his opponent could easily resolve it with his physical body. In the end, he was beaten up again. Although Xiao Zuiji was able to contend against a 3rd-rank martial great master, with the help of the strength-increasing talisman, his physical body was truly tempered. You want to punch me? Sure. Then, I'll punch you again. Relying on his strong physical body and soft silk armor, Xiao Ziji didn't even open his seal shield. He attacked wildly, exposing his flaws. The corners of the martial artist's mouths twitched. Fighting was a kind of technical work. It was about moving, dodging, defending, and counterattacking. The Iron Bone disciple didn't need to defend at all and fought with open arms. He was completely a boorish man. The sect leader was reckless, and the disciple was also reckless. This was really if the heavens didn't give birth to him Iron Bone. Mang Dao would be like a long night. Boom, boom, boom. On the life and death arena, the two had already exchanged dozens of blows. The process wasn't complicated, and it wasn't dazzling. You punch me, I punch you back, and they don't owe each other anything. Xiao Ziji, with his strong defense, could withstand it, but Wan Xiuxian, with his ordinary physical body, was in a tragic situation. Because he was hit more than 20 times, and his injuries were getting worse. From the current situation, he was already at a disadvantage. No, he had to change his strategy, or he would definitely lose. Ah! Wan Xiuxian roared angrily, and his body was suddenly surrounded by the dark attribute. Demonic change! Someone exclaimed. A high-grade demonic sect mental cultivation technique. A high-grade demonic sect mental cultivation technique? Hearing this, everyone's face changed. A high-grade demonic sect mental cultivation technique was already very precious, and it was used by the demonic sect, so it was even rarer. When this Star Valley elder used it, his strength would definitely increase qualitatively. Pung! At this time, an explosion came from the life and death arena. Wan Xiuxian staggered out of the dark attribute, and a bright red fist mark appeared on the right side of his face. This was a punch to the face. Damn it! Wan Xiuxian was furious. When he was about to roar and use his trump card, Xiao Ziji walked out of the fog and punched him. This time, he didn't give him a chance to breathe at all. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Ziji's fist carried a violent force, and it hit Wan Xiuxian's arms again and again, and he staggered back. The stronger martial artists could see that the Star Valley elder had fallen into an absolute disadvantage. At this moment, even if he used his trump card, it would be difficult to reverse the situation. Sect leader, Xiao Ziji said telepathically, let him die or leave him alive. While fighting in the life and death arena, he could still divert his attention to send telepathic messages. This was really amazing. Leave him half alive. Jun Changshao said telepathically. Although it was a battle of life and death, if Wan Xiuxian was killed, it would definitely anger the demonic sect of Huayang County and make him more passive, so he took the gentle route first. Understood. Xiao Ziji continued to bombard Wan Xiuxian, who kept retreating, and his face became paler. The meridians and internal organs in his body couldn't withstand such a hard fight. It was time to end the battle. Xiao Ziji took a step forward and swung his right hand directly, blasting the retreating Wan Xiuxian out of the life and death arena. When he fell heavily to the ground, blood kept spurting out. Xiao Ziji cupped his hands proudly and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Everyone was shocked. A rank 3 Wuzong was defeated so quickly and seriously injured. It was unexpected. Sorry. Jun Changshao went up to the life and death arena and cupped his hands. Our sect won the first battle by luck. This was considered luck? There was no such thing as luck in the world. Chapter 376. Xiao Zui was the winner of the first battle. He also followed the sect master's order and beat Wan Xiuxian until he was half dead. From the way he spat out blood, it would be hard for him to get out of bed without 3 to 5 months of rest. Elder Zhan frowned and said, "What a piece of trash." Wah! Wan Xiuxian spat out another mouthful of blood. He wanted to show off in front of the 2 deicide temple elders, but he ended up in such a miserable state. Elder Zhan was very surprised that Xiao Zui was able to defeat the elder of Point Star Valley. But that was all because he could easily defeat such a level of martial arts practitioner. The martial artists were not surprised, but they were shocked. Especially Alliance Master Qin and the elders of the Alliance. Their faces were ugly. Xiao Ziji's victory over the elder of Star Point Valley gave them a sense of déjà vu. Thinking about it carefully, they realized that it was the Iron Bone challenging the Sacred Spring Sect. At that time, the people of the 100 Sect Alliance believed that the Iron Bone disciples would be defeated by the Sacred Spring Sect disciples. But in the end, they were slapped in the face with victory after victory. Now that he defeated the elder of Star Point Valley, it was also a slap in the face. The martial artists who came to help were not only shocked, but also overjoyed. Although there were still 9 battles to be fought, at least Iron Bone had won the first battle. Jun Changshao said, "Send someone for the second battle." "Brother Jean," another martial king said, "why don't you go up and spar with the disciples of Iron Bone?" "That's what I was thinking." Elder Jean smiled sinisterly. He did not want to waste too much time in Azure Sun County. As long as he won the first battle and witnessed all the disciples of Iron Bone commit suicide, he could return to the sect to cultivate in peace. Swoosh! Elder Jean jumped up and landed on the life and death ring. He said proudly with his hands behind his back, "Sect Master Jun, are you going to fight yourself or send your disciples?" "It's over, it's over." The martial artists of Azure Sun County had ugly expressions. This was the martial king of the deicide temple. As long as he went up the life and death ring, no one in Iron Bone would be qualified to fight him. What awaited sect leader Jun and his disciples after losing a battle was collective suicide. The system said, "Rank 1 martial king high level." "Only a rank 1 martial king?" Jun Changshao said, "I won't fight, and neither will my disciples." "Who will fight?" "Me." A lazy voice came from below the stage. Elder Jean and the others hurriedly turned their gazes over. A middle-aged man yawned as he walked over. This person's attire was somewhat similar to that of the Iron Bone disciples. For example, they were both very bright and eye-catching. However, that guy's eyes were still half closed, as if he was still asleep. Elder Jean frowned. He instantly determined that this person was also a martial king. "This is?" Elder Jean asked. The middle-aged man stopped in front of Jun Changshao and yawned. He introduced himself. "I'm Jiang Bujian, the elder of Iron Bone clan." "You must be the same as me. You've only heard of Jiang Hu meet again, but you've never heard of Jiang Bu see you again. You don't even change your surname?" Jun Changshao asked through telepathy. "There are as many cultivators with the surname Jiang as there are grains of sand in Ganges. The Fiend Demon sect will definitely not think that I'm Jiangya," the middle-aged man replied. It turned out that Jiangya was Jiang Bujian. The middle-aged man's appearance was naturally due to his disguise. Although he was an elder of the Iron Bone clan, he was still working part-time in the Fiend Demon sect's branch. He couldn't show his real face and name. "Jiang Bujian." Elder Jean thought for a while and said, "Brother Gua, have you heard of this martial king before? Have you seen him before?" "Martial king?" The evil cultivators of Qingyang County and Huaiyang County all widened their eyes when they heard this. Many people were already surprised that the Iron Bone clan had an elder. They never thought that this elder would be a martial king. Alliance Master Qin and the Alliance members were dumbfounded. Of course, they didn't think that the God-slaying Hall elder was joking. Then, this lazy middle-aged man was undoubtedly a martial king. A 7th-rate sect has an elder with martial king cultivation. Isn't this too inconceivable? The evil cultivators couldn't accept it. If it was a 6th-rate or 5th-rate sect, it would be understandable to have a martial king elder. But for a 7th-rate sect to have such an expert, it was definitely very explosive. Looking at the expressions on everyone's faces, Jun Changshao thought, "My Iron Bone clan has a martial king. Is there a need to be so surprised?" Martial King Gua shook his head and said, "I've never seen or heard of him." Jiangya said, "I'm from Lu Prefecture in the northeast. Naturally, you've never seen or heard of him. So that's how it is." Elder Jean laughed strangely and said, "A small 7th-rate sect can recruit a martial king from Lu Prefecture in the northeast as an elder. It's really surprising." It was more than surprising. It was simply too surprising. The 20 evil cultivators secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, the God-slaying Hall had sent 2 martial kings. Otherwise, there would be countless casualties if this big guy came over. Martial King, the king of martial Dao, an expert of this level, in front of a martial disciple, martial master, or even Wuzong, was definitely an insurmountable mountain. "Stop talking nonsense," Jiangya said impatiently. "Hurry up and start." After this elder still needs to go to sleep. Because his opponent was also a martial king, Elder Jean put away his contempt and his gaze became abnormally solemn. Swish! With a wave of his hand, a sinister and terrifying evil aura erupted. The momentum could be said to be vast. As expected of a martial king-level evil cultivator, in terms of aura and attributes, it was not something that a third-stage Wuzong like Wan Xiuxian could compare to. However, just as Elder Zhan was about to make a move, Jiangye used the cloud-treading steps and instantly approached. He had learned most of the cultivation techniques in Iron Bone, and his understanding was much stronger than the disciples. It could be seen from the way he used the cloud-treading steps. His martial arts were strong, and his understanding of martial arts was also high. Therefore, his comprehension of cultivation techniques was definitely not something that low-level martial artists could compare to. For example, Yi Xingchen. His understanding of Iron Bone's various cultivation techniques was far superior to that of Jun Changshao. Unfortunately, although he was proficient in the cultivation techniques, his cultivation could not improve. If Yi Xingchen was also a martial king, he would definitely be stronger than Jiangye if he used the Sect's cultivation techniques at the same time. After all, he was once one of the 10 great martial emperors. His martial arts experience was rich. In the entire Falling Star continent, only the other 9 martial emperors could compete with him. Boom! Jiangye quickly approached and without saying anything, he used the mountain-splitting palm. This kind of middle-grade high-grade martial skill, when executed in his hands, the power was naturally extraordinary. Thump, thump, thump. Elder Zhan staggered back a few steps and said in shock, You are a second-stage martial king?" When experts exchanged blows, the difference between them was obvious. Otherwise, Jiangye appeared behind him and punched out with his right fist filled with 2 million jin of strength. His strong attributes exploded, and the space became distorted, as if it was about to be torn apart. Rumble! Elder Zhan did not have time to react before he was hit in the back. He was pushed back from the center of the life and death arena to the edge. His body immediately felt intense pain. One move was over. The fist print was left in the space, as if it was frozen. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of terrifying strength could shake the space and cause the fist print to freeze and not dissipate? Chapter 377. After becoming an Iron Bone Elder for the past 2 months, Jiangye's strength had greatly increased, even though he was still a rank 2 martial king. To be exact, not long ago, he was only a high-rank martial king. Now that he had taken the body-shaping pill and gone through the shaping room and training tower, he had reached the extreme level. Although Elder Zhan was a high-rank 1 martial king, his evil Sect's cultivation technique was very strong. He could unleash a strength of 1.6 million jin. This strength was comparable to that of a high-rank 2 martial king. Unfortunately, facing Jiang Xia, a second-grade martial king, who could casually unleash a force of over 2 million jin, he could only be described as weak. Thus, when he threw the second punch, he was almost knocked off the stage. His entire body was in pain. Swoosh! Jiangye appeared again and threw a punch. Boom! The sound of an explosion was heard again, shaking the hearts of the crowd. Elder Zhan, who had an awesome expression just now, was punched from left to right by Jiangye. He had no strength to resist at all. In a battle between martial artists, a difference of 10,000 jin was enough to determine the outcome. A difference of 400,000 jin between martial kings could be described as a great disparity in strength. Boom! Boom! Jiangye continued to attack, beating Elder Zhan until he was running in circles on the stage. The corners of the spectators' mouths twitched. A martial king could beat another martial king to such a state. How great was the disparity in strength? Jun Changshao was also speechless. This god-slaying hall elder had been laughing nonstop since he arrived. He thought that he was a very strong person, but he did not expect him to be such a weakling. Elder Zhan was actually not weak. If it was another rank 2 martial king, he would definitely be able to fight back and forth with them. However, he just had to meet an extreme rank 2 martial king. The disparity in strength was not something that could be made up with the evil Sect's cultivation technique. Even if Elder Gua, who was a rank 2 martial king, went on stage, he would still be beaten up by Jiangye. That was because he was also a high-rank martial king like Elder Zhan. Why don't you fight back? Boom. Why don't you laugh at me? Boom. Every time our elder Jiang spoke a sentence, he would throw out a punch, making Elder Zhan dizzy. This was absolutely crushing. Jun Changshao couldn't stand it anymore. He transmitted his voice. Just beat him up casually. Don't go overboard. If killing the deicide Hall elder could solve the current problem, he would definitely let Jiang Ye kill him. But in reality, if they continued to abuse each other mercilessly on the life and death arena, it would only increase the other party's hatred and make the conflict between them even greater. Sigh. He was still too weak. If he and his disciples' cultivation were strong enough, they could act tough without any qualms. After receiving the sect master's order, Jiang Ye gave up on the idea of trampling on Elder Zhan. Instead, he punched Elder Zhan's abdomen and threw him out of the life and death ring. His strength was just right. Elder Zhan staggered and landed on the ground. Although he felt pain all over his body, he did not suffer any serious internal injuries. He would recover after a few days of rest. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission, Worlds Apart. You have gained 500 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 2770500. After hearing the notification, Jun Changshao immediately beamed with joy. During this period of time, the system did not release any side missions. Even when 2 martial kings came with 10,000 evil cultivators, it did not trigger them. However, there was a hidden mission. Who knows, this thing might just be completed inexplicably. For example, the hidden mission, Worlds Apart, made Jun Changshao angry and confused. The system explained, although that person is only a rank 1 martial king, he is an evil cultivator. His strength cannot be underestimated. Jiang Ye was able to completely crush him. This is the difference between heaven and earth. Jun Changshao said, I used to crush many opponents in the past. Why didn't I complete it? The system said, some hidden missions are not necessarily related to the host. Instead, they require the sect's members to fulfill the requirements. That's not right. Jun Changshao said. Qingyang and the others also crushed their opponents. Why didn't they complete it? The system broke down. The mission was completed, and the reward was given. Why did you keep asking questions? Was your brain kicked by a donkey? Sect leader Jun was not kicked by a donkey. He was infected by Shengguan Xinyao. If you don't understand, you have to ask. The system was speechless. Some hidden missions may require the sect's members to fulfill the requirements. I see. Jun Changshao understood now. The cultivators of Qingyang County were the happiest when Jiang Ye crushed Elder Zhan. At this moment, they finally understood why the sect leader dared to set up the life and death arena. He dared to fight 10 rounds, and would commit suicide if he lost one. There was such a powerful elder. To be honest, they had no doubt that if 10,000 evil cultivators were to join hands, they would be slaughtered until the ground was littered with corpses and blood flowed like a river. The evil cultivators of Huayang County trembled. They rejoiced that the sect leader of Iron Bone had chosen to settle the grudge with the life and death arena. Otherwise, they would have become cold corpses by now. As for the ones with the worst expressions, it was naturally Qin Haoran and the others. They thought that the Iron Bone would be destroyed. Who would have thought that a martial king, who could crush an elder of the Godslayer Temple, would appear? They did not see a joke in the Holy Spring sect. Instead, they were slapped in the face again and again. Now they were even more afraid. Because the Iron Bone disciples were strong, and they had an elder of the martial king realm, they could do whatever they wanted in Qingyang County. Jiang Ye, who was standing on the stage, looked at the other martial king of the Godslayer Temple, and said proudly, Do you want to come up and fight with me? Elder Guo's mouth twitched. When he was watching the battle earlier, he could already tell that this Iron Bone sect elder was definitely an extreme second-grade martial king. If he went up on stage to fight, he would definitely be defeated. Sect leader Jun, Elder Zhan suppressed the pain in his body and said, 10 battles. Isn't it 1 battle per person? Being beaten up by Jiang Xia made him feel very embarrassed. However, he also realized that with such a strong martial king, it would be difficult to destroy the Iron Bone sect. However, since that guy said that he would kill himself if he lost 1 battle, He would not let it go. At first, he agreed to the life and death arena, because he felt that the strong were giving charity to the weak. Now he was eager to fight 10 battles. Only then could he destroy the iron bone. Jun Changshao said, 10 battles. 1 battle per person. Xie Guangquan and Ai Shang rolled their eyes. Sect leader Jun, before the battle, you didn't say that one person could fight more than 1 battle. Now that there is a strong elder, let him fight all 8 battles. Everything will be fine. Jun Changshao also wanted to let Jiang Ye fight all the battles. However, it would be a waste if he didn't let the other disciples fight. Since each person can only fight 1 battle, I would like to see what the iron bone is capable of. Elder Gu jumped onto the life and death arena. Everyone's mouth twitched. Just now, the iron bone elder called you by name, but you pretended not to hear. Now that the rules say that each person can only fight 1 battle, you immediately jumped out. Do you still have the demeanor of a strong cultivator? Ding! Side mission activated. Damn it! Finally the side mission came. Jun Changshao hurriedly opened the system panel, and saw that the side mission was defeat the Deicide Temple Elder Gudigang in 1 minute, elite mission. Note: if the requirement is not met within the time limit, the mission will fail. After reading it, Jun Changshao's eyes almost popped out. He said, are there 2 zeros behind the 1? The system said, no, it's 1 minute. Chapter 378. The side mission hadn't been triggered for a long time. The last time was when he brought Yi Xingchen to Pingyang County to participate in the Sect competition. Murdering God Temple's Elder Gu jumped onto the life and death arena. It was finally triggered again, and it was an elite-level mission. However, this mission was a bit fucked up. Jun Changshao broke down. Do you think it's possible for me to defeat a martial king in 60 seconds? Impossible. The system said decisively. The reason why Jiang Xia was able to defeat Elder Zhan was because he was a rank 2 martial king. What about Jun Changshao? Even if he was a rank 2 superior Wuzong, his combat strength was at most 350,000 jin. Elder Guo was a rank 2 martial king. He could casually attack with 1.6 million jin. The difference between the two was close to 5 times. There was no way to fight. Since it's impossible, Jun Changshao broke down. Then what's the value of this mission? The system said, the more impossible the mission is, the more generous the reward if the host completes it. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. He naturally knew that the harder the mission, the greater the reward after completion. The key was, how was he going to complete it? Sigh. Jun Changshao thought. I can only use the mid-grade strength increasing talisman. After completing Death Valley's epic mission 2, he received a mid-grade strength increasing talisman. He hadn't used it yet. The system said, the mid-grade strength increasing talisman can increase the host's strength by 10 times. 10 times? Jun Changshao's eyes burned. With his current strength, he would have more than 3 million jin of strength after using it. He could definitely smash a rank 2 martial king. However, the system said, if the physical body isn't strong, there will be a long side effect after the time limit expires. How long is the time limit? 60 minutes. 1 minute to deal with this martial king. 59 minutes to deter the evil faction of Huayang County. This should be enough to solve the problem. After some calculations, Jun Changshao clasped his hands and said, since that's the case, I'll compete with this murdering God Temple expert. Although the mission didn't say that the host had to solve it, at this time, he had to fight the second martial king of the murdering God Temple. Sect Master Jun wants to fight personally? To be able to defeat the patriarch of the Holy Spring Sect. Sect leader Jun is indeed very strong. Can he be stronger than that Elder Jiang? Everyone discussed in low voices. Xie Guangquan and Ai Shang were thinking that since the Iron Bone Sect had a martial king elder, they might have some other unfathomable experts. But they didn't expect that sect leader Jun would fight in the 3rd round. To be honest, it was a little difficult. But it wasn't a big problem. Sect leader Jun still had the artifact spirit saber. Sect Master Jun. Elder Gu said, let's decide the winner with our fists. Sure, Jun Changshao said. The corners of Xie Guangquan and Ai Shang's mouths twitched. They were still thinking that sect leader Jun might have a chance of winning, if he used his weapon Spirit Saber. But now he was fighting a martial king barehanded. No matter how they looked at it, there was no chance of winning. At this time, Alliance Chief Qin and the other Alliance members should be laughing at him. It was strange. They were all honest and didn't even have the slightest bit of psychological activity. The Ironbone sect had a martial king who had brutally beaten up the Deicide Hall elder. The impact was too great for them, so they forgot that they came here to watch a joke. What joke was there to watch? That Ironbone sect was so strong. If they angered that guy and brought the elder to their sect, being beaten up was a small matter, but being destroyed was a big matter. When a person's strength was still within the acceptable range, everyone would still look down on them. But when a person's strength reached a higher level, to the point where they couldn't be touched, they could only look up to them. For example, in the same village, if someone had some money, lived in a bungalow and drove a small car, the neighbors would be jealous in private and would point fingers at them. Hey, that kid still wet his bed when he was 7. I used to play with him, but I didn't think he was that promising. After a period of time, someone had countless enterprises and listed companies. His wealth was comparable to that of a country. The neighbors who used to point fingers at him would definitely all become mutes. Because this kind of rich person was undoubtedly a towering mountain in front of them. They could only look up and didn't dare to cross it. Ironbone sect was like this. Although it had been getting stronger, Qin Haoran and the alliance members always thought that its strength was just an accident, that it was just luck. Now, the disciples could defeat Wuzong, and the elders could trample on martial kings. They had become existences that they could only look up to. On the life and death arena, Jun Changxiao and Elder Guo were 10 meters apart. They were already prepared for battle. He's a bit reckless. Lu Qianqian frowned. The sect leader, with his cultivation of rank 2 Wuzong, challenged a rank 2 martial king. The difficulty was too high. There was absolutely no hope. Of course, in this period of time, she knew that although the sect leader was sometimes reckless, he never did things that he wasn't confident in. So, she was secretly looking forward to his brilliant performance. Unlike the eldest senior sister's worries, Li Qingyang and the others had absolute admiration for the sect leader. Since he dared to challenge a martial king, he definitely had absolute confidence. Aha! On the tree little Long Long yawned. A trace of depression appeared in his eyes. The second martial king. Why didn't Master let him fight? Jun Changxiao also wanted to let him fight, but the so-called dragonized battle form, which was neither human nor beast, would definitely scare children. Below the life and death ring, all the cultivators were also watching intently. The atmosphere in this area was slightly solemn. Sect leader Jun Eldergui said indifferently, "You can start now." Wait a moment. As Jun Changxiao spoke, he secretly crushed the mid-tier strength increase talisman. Huff huff. In an instant, a terrifying energy burst out from his dantian. Then like a tide, it surged toward all the meridians in his body. Awesome awesome awesome. Jun Changxiao felt that every muscle and every meridian in his body contained an even greater power than before. His eyes were filled with an intense fighting spirit. Elder Guo frowned. The moment Jun Changxiao's power surged, an ominous feeling rose in his heart. A rank 2 martial ancestor realm cultivator without any weapons. How could he have such thoughts? Was it because the elder of the Ironbone faction was too strong? Elder Guo smiled. You can start now, Jun Changxiao said. When he said the word start, the 1-minute time shown on the side mission suddenly became 59 seconds. Obviously, it had started and entered the countdown stage. Swoosh! At this moment, Elder Guo rushed over with his movement technique. Huff huff! A powerful evil aura burst out from his body and gradually condensed into an illusory human figure. Demon statue! A cultivator exclaimed. The figure gradually materialized, like a carved stone statue, emitting an evil aura that made people fear it. Huff huff! Suddenly, the demon statue stretched out one hand and mercilessly attacked Jun Changxiao. The force it carried instantly rose to 2 million jin. Elder Zhan's mouth twitched. Facing a second stage Wuzong, Brother Gui used his trump card right from the start. Wasn't he being too serious? Elder Gui's move was to end the battle quickly. However, Facing the demon statue's palm, Sect leader Jun took a step forward. His eyes shone with excitement as he waved his right fist and attacked. Ka ka ka, as he punched out, the space around him crackled and popped. When one's strength reached a certain level, the punch could produce the sound of wind breaking. When it was a little stronger, it could stir up the wind. When it was a little stronger, it could stir up the space. Oh my God! Hearing the sound that gave people goosebumps, everyone was dumbfounded. Their hearts were in turmoil. Impossible! Elder Guo's face changed greatly. The faint ominous feeling he had before expanded infinitely the moment Jun Changxiao's fist came. Chapter 4. Chapter 379. When Jun Changxiao's fist came crashing down, an intense ominous feeling instantly surged into Elder Guo's knowledge sea, causing his complexion to change greatly. Even the magic colossus, which was 2 to 3 meters tall, looked abnormally small in front of the incoming fist. Whoosh whoosh, the wind howled and dust flew everywhere. The spectators held their breaths. Their hearts were filled with shock. What kind of strength was this to create such a powerful aura? Jiangya, who had just stepped down from the stage, felt the powerful energy fluctuation. His expression froze. This aura, this strength. It was definitely more than 1,000,000 genes stronger than his. With the support of the 10 times strength amplification talisman, the strength of Jun Changxiao's fist had increased from 350,000 gene to 3.5 million gene. What did that mean? Even a mid-level peak martial king could only reach 250,000 gene. The battle prowess that Jun Changxiao had unleashed was equivalent to that of an advanced rank 8 martial king in the Falling Star continent. It was no wonder that Elder Guo, who was an advanced rank 2 martial king, felt a strong sense of foreboding in his heart when facing such strength. I'm going to die, I'm going to die. This was the thought that came to Elder Guo's mind in a split second. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Jun Changxiao's fist, which was imbued with immense power, landed on the golem's palm and smashed it into smithereens. Pfft! Elder Guo vomited blood on the spot. However, Jun Changxiao's fist was like a hot knife through butter. It completely destroyed the golem's body. Elder Guo's attack was forcefully broken. The backlash was huge. Not only did he vomit blood again, but his meridians were also greatly damaged. If that was all, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, what made him despair was that Jun Changxiao's fist was still coming. The strength it carried was still extremely terrifying. It's over. Elder Guo howled in his heart. Boom! In the end, Jun Changxiao's fist, which seemed to be able to tear space apart, landed on Elder Guo's abdomen. Bang! The clothes on Elder Guo's back were torn apart. A red fist print could be seen on his exposed skin. A ripple of energy visible to the naked eye instantly spread out and extended for thousands of meters. All the martial artists below the stage felt that domineering aura, and all of them were trembling in fear. They couldn't tell how powerful the energy was, but without a doubt, if it hit them, they would definitely die. That wasn't the point. The point was, what happened to Elder Guo? Everyone gradually calmed down. They looked at the life and death ring. Where was Jun Changxiao was standing? Elder Guo was nowhere to be seen. Where was he? Could it be that it had been blasted into smithereens? Plop. At that moment the sound of the crowd. Calm. Everyone hurriedly turned their heads to look. On the grass hundreds of meters away, Elder Guo was lying on the ground like a puddle of mud, his body twitching violently. Of the crowd. Jiang Xie was speechless. The sect leader had just said that it was fine to torture Elder Guo casually, but when it was his turn, he was so heavy-handed. In fact, Jun Changxiao had retracted a lot of his strength when he hit Elder Guo. Otherwise, Elder Guo wouldn't be twitching on the ground. Instead, his stomach would be ripped open. Ding! Side mission completed. Host receives 1,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points. 377050000. It actually gave him 1,000 contribution points. However, it didn't seem worth it to earn 1,000 contribution points with such a powerful strength enhancement talisman. Ding! Congratulations on completing the side mission and triggering the hidden reward. Received Supreme Grade Talent Enhancement Elixir X1, and Sword Dao Talent Enhancement Elixir X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Jun Changxiao was stunned. Then he was overjoyed. He thought that the hidden reward would only be given when he completed the hidden mission. He didn't expect the side mission to give it too. The Supreme Grade Talent Enhancement Elixir was good. Sword Dao Talent Enhancement Elixir was even better. The system said, using a middle grade Strength Enhancement Talisman in exchange for 1,000 contribution points, and 2 bottles of Spirit Root, and Sword Dao Talent Enhancement Elixir. Do you think it's worth it? Worth it, Jun Changxiao said. Super worth it. If there weren't so many people present, he might have taken out the Sword Dao Talent Enhancement Elixir and drank it on the spot. Swoosh. Jun Changxiao clasped his fist and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Everyone's mouth twitched. Sending a rank 2 martial king, flying a few hundred meters with one punch, and making him unable to stand up. This Ironbone sect leader was really strong. Elder Zhan's face was extremely ugly. He and Guodigang both wanted to end the battle quickly. In the end, one was miserably beaten up and the other was instantly killed. Elder Zhan, Jun Changxiao said, "Send someone up." They had only fought 3 rounds. There were still 7 rounds left. Even if they fought 2 in 1 chapter, they could happily write 3.5 chapters. "Everyone," Elder Zhan said in a deep voice, "who will fight?" The 20 upper echelons of the evil sects were all silent. They now realized that although Ironbone was only a 7th-rate sect, their sect leader, elders, and disciples were all very strong. If they went up, they would definitely be beaten up. After 3 rounds, Ironbone's momentum was very strong. On the contrary, the morale of the evil sects in Huayang County had hit rock bottom. "Everyone." Seeing that no one said anything, Elder Zhan said coldly, "Are you afraid of Ironbone?" "I'll fight." A 6th-rate evil sect elder stood up. His cultivation was higher than Wan Xiuxian's, but only by 1 rank. "Qingyang," Jun Changxiao said, "you fight." "Yes." Li Qingyang went up the life and death ring. "Brother Yang will win. Young Master will win." Below the ring, the Li family's direct descendants and servants all cheered. Although the Li family's patriarch was very worried, when he saw Li Qingyang standing there proudly, a sense of pride appeared on his face. "Everyone look, this is my son." After he joined Ironbone, he first defeated the inner disciple of Holy Spring Sect in Spirit Spring Mountain, then defeated the pro-disciple of Hao Qi Sect in Noble Spirit Mountain, and finally defeated the pro-disciple of Holy Spring Sect in Holy Spring Mountain. As a father, I'm proud. Let's start. Jun Changxiao acted as the referee. Swoosh. The evil sect master was the first to attack. Li Qingyang did not hesitate to crush the talisman, and used the cloud steps to deal with him. He and Xiao Zuiji were both level 6 martial masters, but their strength was a level higher. Furthermore, their development was balanced, so it was more than enough to deal with the level 4 martial great master. Boom! Boom! The two quickly fought for dozens of moves, and from the situation, they were evenly matched. But all the experts could see that the Ironbone disciple's fighting style was much more stable than the previous disciple. As long as there were no major flaws or mistakes, winning this fight should not be a problem. Xiao Ziji's advantage was that his physical body was very strong. His fighting style was to attack without hesitation. At most, you hit me once, I'll take it and then hit you again. Li Qingyang was different. His physical defense was weak, but he was very balanced in all aspects. So when he fought with others, he did not have any outstanding points, nor did he have any major weaknesses. He fought very steadily. Of course, our chief steward Li's physical defense was weak, but it was only limited to Xiao Ziji, this muscle demon. Compared to other martial cultivators, he was still very strong. Pung, pung, pung. The evil sect master took the opportunity and immediately used a dazzling fist technique. In the end, not only did he not hurt Li Qingyang, he was hit several times by his mountain-splitting palm. Everyone's mouth twitched. The guy called Xiao Ziji was already very good at taking a beating. Why was the second disciple also so good at taking a beating? -5. Chapter 380. Li Qingyang was good at both offense and defense, and he had the strength-increasing talisman. How could the fourth-rank Wuzong win? If his defense was also strong, he could continue to wear him down. But he didn't have the forging room or the experience tower to temper himself. So as long as he was hit, he would definitely be unlucky. Bang! Bang! Li Qingyang used the cloud treading steps and went behind the evil master. He punched out with both fists and pushed him back again. End the battle quickly, Jun Changshao transmitted. Yes. Upon receiving the order, Li Qingyang took advantage of the opportunity to pursue and attack. Bang bang bang. Mountain-splitting palm and exploding fist were used one after another, directly knocking the evil master off the stage and falling next to Wan Xiuxian. Everyone's mouth twitched. Ironbone disciples were really fierce. Torturing a third-rank or fourth-rank Wuzong was like playing Sect Master. Suddenly, Jun Changshao heard a voice. I'm back. Who was back? Yi Xingqian. This guy slipped down the mountain to train first. He was in the mood to kill ferocious beasts when he suddenly received the Drizzle Hall's message. Knowing that 20 evil sects were attacking the sect, he hurried over. Of course, Night Emperor didn't think it was because he cared about Ironbone. He just thought that such a carefree place to train must not be destroyed. In short, with Yi Xingqian's personality, he would never admit that he had feelings for Ironbone. This kind of feeling was slowly built up through cultivation and contact with fellow sect members. Although it was still very weak, it really existed. You came just in time, Jun Changshao said. Fight on stage later. As he spoke, he walked up the stage and said, Please send someone to fight in the 5th round. Elder Zhan's eyes were gloomy. He said, Is there anyone else willing to fight? He could see it. This Ironbone disciple was strong, so he dared to fight 10 rounds. But he didn't believe that he could win 10 rounds in a row without losing one. This old man will do it. A hunchbacked old man stepped forward. He was the strongest of the 12 Wuzongs, and his cultivation was the highest. He had already reached the peak of Wuzong. The system said, intermediate level peak Wuzong, strength around 260,000 jin. Xingqian, Jun Changshao said, Let's go. Ta. Yi Xingqian, who had just returned and was standing with his fellow disciples, stepped forward and looked at the old man, who looked to be around 67 years old with disdain. This person was almost 200 years old, and he was only at the peak of Wuzong. His talent must be average, and it would be difficult for him to break through to martial king in this lifetime. Martial cultivators with ordinary aptitude could reach Wuzong through hard work. However, that was the limit. There was almost no hope for them to become a martial king. Nothing was absolute. Some people might be able to break through with the help of heavenly treasures, or some kind of irreplicable opportunity, but there were very few of them. Therefore, in the martial king level, there was basically no ordinary or intermediate level. As long as one could enter it, they had to start from the advanced level. Standing in the middle of the life and death ring, Yi Xingqian said indifferently, Trash. Everyone's mouth twitched. He dared to say that a peak of Wuzong was trash. This guy seemed to be even more arrogant than the previous 2 disciples. The evil sect master's eyes were cold. He said, Today this old man will obliterate you, and let the Ironbone all commit suicide in front of everyone. Old man, Yi Xingqian said indifferently, Stop dreaming. Although he said that, he secretly crushed the strength-increasing talisman. Whoosh whoosh. A strong force spread out from his body, shocking him. He was secretly shocked. It's just a talisman, and it gave me so much power. How terrifying. It was only twice. If Night Emperor used 5 times, or even 10 times, he would be shocked to the point of doubting his life. To be honest, if Yi Xingqian had eaten some kind of pill, he could still understand. However, a piece of yellow paper gave him twice the power. It definitely subverted his understanding of martial arts. This must be a talisman from the upper realm that was strengthened by some kind of Dao technique. Begin, Jun Changshao said. Whoosh. Yi Xingqian, whose strength had increased, could not wait to make the first move. Whoosh whoosh. He used the rupturing fist, and a gust of wind swept up. The strength of his attack directly hit 250,000 pounds. Peak of Wuzong saw this, and his expression changed. He instinctively chose to dodge. If it was Li Qingyang or Xiao Ziji, he could definitely dodge. However, he was facing Yi Xingchen, a former martial emperor. Dodge. He hid behind his fist. Bang! Yi Xingchen's fist, which seemed to have no blind spots, directly hit the evil sect master's face. Not only was his head knocked to the side, 2 bloody front teeth flew out. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This kind of punching style of hitting half of the opponent's face with one punch was simply too valiant. Thump thump thump. Peak of Wuzong staggered back. The left side of his face was red and swollen. Swoosh. Yi Xingchen appeared on the other side and used the mountain-splitting palm to hit the other half of his face. 2 moves were over. Peak of Wuzong's face was swollen like a pig's head. He looked very miserable. This was just the beginning. What awaited him was Yi Xingchen's storm-like destruction. Bang! 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 In the life and death arena, Peak of Wuzong was like a spinning top. He was constantly being tortured. In the end, Sect leader Jun could not stand it anymore. He said telepathically, "Don't torture him to death. Quickly get off the arena and end the battle." Yi Xingchen, who wanted to continue, could only punch Peak of Wuzong off the arena. Once again, he felt the double strength brought by the strength-increasing talisman. He could not calm down. This talisman is too magical. Xiao Ziji's recklessness, Li Qingyang's steadiness, and Yi Xingchen's attack just now could be called tyrannical. 3 disciples went out and won 3 rounds. This made all the martial artists realize that the Iron Bone sect was really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. They could not be underestimated. "Continue fighting," Elder Zhan said in a low voice. Therefore, another evil sect expert took the initiative to fight. Jun Changxiao would decide which disciple to fight based on the opponent's strength. In the 6th round, Su Xiaoma used his speed and double strength to kick a mid-stage 8th stage Wuzong around the arena. In the 7th round, a sword cultivator, Zhou Hong, came out. The 2 of them talked for a long time and finished the battle easily with the linear speed technique. In the 8th round, Li Fei came out. His opponent was only a mid-stage 7th stage Wuzong. It was easy for him to defeat him. In the 9th round, Tianqi had an even easier time because his opponent was only a mid-stage 5th stage Wuzong. In just 20 minutes, they fought 4 rounds. All of them were solid and not weak at all. Unbelievable. The disciples of the Iron Bone sect are too strong. Martial masters are fighting Wuzong like it's a game. Are they even human? Many martial artists broke down. However, the martial artists of the Azure Sun County were more worried. They had to win 9 out of 10 rounds of life and death battles. They had to win 9 rounds and not drop the ball in the last round. The evil sect of the Huayang County sent out their last contestant. He was a high-stage 3rd stage Wuzong. His strength was on par with Wan Xiuxian. Jun Changxiao also sent out his last disciple. Who? Lu Qianqian. Letting a woman fight the last round? Isn't this too reckless? If they lose, the leader of the Iron Bone sect and his disciples will have to kill themselves. The martial artists of the Azure Sun County broke down when they saw Lu Qianqian walking up the life and death ring. However, only Xie Guangquan, Ai Shangyao, and the others were calm. They had seen Lu Qianqian fight in the Sacred Spring sect and knew that she was a rare ice-type martial artist. Her strength was also very strong and was definitely not weaker than Li Qingyang and Yi Xingchen. It was settled. With the eldest disciple as the finale, winning all 10 rounds was not a problem. Xie Guangquan and Ai Shangyao's tense faces finally showed a smile. 6. Chapter 381. On the Arena of Life and Death. The rank 3 Wuzong was covered in layers of ice and turned into a lifelike ice sculpture. Below the arena, all the cultivators widened their eyes. Oh my god! That female Iron Bone disciple was actually an ice martial cultivator. She was able to freeze her opponent in ice. Ka. After a while, the ice on Wuzong's body fell off and he fainted from the cold. At this point the battle was over. Lu Qianqian walked down the arena of life and death without even looking at her opponent. From the start to the end, it took at most 10 seconds. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changxiao said, "You've become much stronger." "I'm still far from being able to compete with the sect master," Lu Qianqian said. She was speaking the truth. After all, if it were her, she definitely wouldn't be able to defeat a rank 2 martial king. Jun Changshao walked up the arena of life and death, and looked at Elder Zhan. He clasped his hands and said, "My apologies. My Ironbone disciple won 10 matches by luck." Everyone's mouth twitched. After 10 matches, they realized something in common. None of them were evenly matched. The Ironbone disciple didn't fall into a passive position either. She either had the upper hand or crushed her opponent. This was simply too terrifying. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. Elder Zhan's face was extremely ugly. They had come with such great momentum, but in the end, they did not win a single one of the 10 battles. Their face had been thrown to their grandmother's house. According to our previous agreement, Jun Changshao said, "Everyone, please return the way you came and mind your own business." Elder Zhan felt even worse. He came to Azure Sun County under the orders of the branch master, but he failed to eliminate the Ironbone disciple. How was he supposed to report back? Not admit defeat and not compromise? He could do that. It was also in line with the demonic faction's style. However, the Ironbone disciple wasn't weak either. There was an elder who defeated him, a sect master who defeated Elder Gua, and a group of powerful disciples. If he fought head-on, he would have to pay a heavy price, not to mention whether he could eliminate the Ironbone disciple or not. What should he do? After hesitating for a while, Elder Zhan clasped his hands and said sullenly, "Farewell." He admitted defeat. Let's follow the rules of Jianghu. Jun Changshao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Now that he had finally gotten rid of this problem, he could once again take his disciples out to show off and have fun without any worries. The Azure Sun County cultivators also felt a huge weight lifted off their shoulders, as they felt even more respect for Sect Master Jun. 20 heretical sects, and tens of thousands of heretical cultivators came from Huayang County. It was a deadly situation, but it was turned around and resolved. Elder Zhan did not dare to risk his life to launch an attack on Ironbone's horn. He could only return the way he came. However, just as he was about to leave, a young man walked out of the forest. It was a man with a fair complexion and a slender figure. He looked like an elegant young master from an aristocratic family. Elder Zhan's expression changed and he exclaimed, "Elder Bai." Guodigang, who was being carried, endured the pain and tried his best to raise his head. When he saw the person's appearance clearly, his eyes were filled with shock, and he hurriedly closed his eyes and pretended to faint. Jun Changshao frowned. This person was about the same age as him, but the aura he emitted was much stronger than Elder Zhan's. Sect Master Jiangya, who looked lazy, had a serious expression as he transmitted his voice. "This person is an expert from the Deicide Hall headquarters. His strength is probably," the system said, "peak martial king." Jun Changshao was startled, and then the corner of his mouth twitched. What kind of joke was this? This guy who didn't even look like he was fully grown was a peak martial king? Like a young man strolling in the forest, he suddenly dragged an afterimage and stopped in front of Elder Zhan at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. He slapped his face and scolded, "A bunch of trash." A palm print appeared on Elder Zhan's right cheek, and he felt a burning pain as he said, "Elder Bai, please calm down." His voice was trembling, and cold sweat seeped out of his forehead and back. Elder Bai flicked his black hair and said, "The division leader was worried that there would be a change in the situation, so he sent me over to supervise." As expected, he guessed right. Elder Bai," Elder Zhan said in fear. "This iron bone is very strong. I am worried that if I use force, it will cause a lot of damage." He was also an elder, but only a branch elder. The young man in front of him was an elder of the headquarters. In terms of rank, he was much higher than him. "So," Elder Bai said indifferently, "is this the reason why you cowered?" His sharp eyes stared at Elder Zhan, causing him to be extremely afraid, and his legs began to tremble. The 20 upper echelons of the evil sects behind him were also uneasy. They had already seen the golden token on the young man's waist with the words Deicide engraved on it. They realized that he was definitely an expert from the Deicide Hall's headquarters. The martial artists of Qingyang County didn't know, But when they saw a martial king keeping quiet in front of him, they guessed that the other party's status must be high, and his strength must not be weak. This is troublesome. Xie Guangquan and Ai Shang, who had just relaxed, frowned again. As expected, Elder Bai raised his head and looked at Jun Changshao on the life and death arena. He smiled faintly and said, "Today, Iron Bone must be removed from the Jianghu." His voice was gentle and unquestionable. All the martial artists had the same thought: this person would definitely do what he said. "How strong is this guy?" Jun Changshao said. The middle-grade strength increased talisman still had about 30 minutes left. If the other party insisted on coming, at most, he would take out the green dragon crescent blade and fight with him. The system said, an extreme peak martial king, not including martial skills, is at least 3 million jin. Fuck. Sect leader Jun cursed in his heart. He was only 5 million with the 10 times strength increased talisman. There was a difference of 2 million jin between him and the other party. Even if he activated the special effect of the green dragon crescent blade, he definitely wouldn't be able to win. It wasn't easy to deal with this group of evil sect martial cultivators, but in the end, a peak martial king appeared. Was he destined to bring his disciples to hide in the sect protection array? "Friend," Jun Changshao said, "we have an agreement. Out of 10 battles, my Iron Bone will win 10 battles. From now on, we won't interfere with each other." It would be best if he could rely on words to resolve it. Elder Bai smiled and said, "That's your agreement with the trash, not with me." The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. "Damn it, do you want to force me to use my unstoppable blade?" No. When the green dragon crescent blade's special effect was activated, it was mistaken for a divine weapon with a spirit. If he pulled out the 40-meter-long blade, even if he could deal with this peak martial king, it would definitely cause more trouble if word got out. He couldn't win, so he could only enter the sect protection array. "Disciples, listen up." Sect leader Jun hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the group. "Everyone return to the sect. A wise man knows when to retreat. I can't afford to offend him, but I can't hide." Swish, swish, swish. The Iron Bone disciples obeyed the sect leader's orders and hurriedly used the cloud treading steps to ascend the mountain. Seeing this, Elder Bai smiled faintly. He didn't chase after them. Instead, he locked his consciousness on Jun Changshao and said indifferently, "Do you believe that as long as you take a step, I will destroy your soul?" "Is that so?" Jun Changshao sneered. Although he couldn't beat a peak martial king, he couldn't lose his momentum. After all, he was the sect leader. Soon, all the disciples retreated. Only Jiangyu was left in the life and death arena. No, there was one more person, and that was the medicine hall master, Elder Wei. "Elder Wei." Jun Changshao hurriedly sent a voice transmission. "Please return to the sect quickly." Elder Wei got up and left. However, he didn't return to the sect. Instead, he walked forward and stood in front of the sect leader. His originally bent body straightened. Jun Changshao's expression froze. Elder Wei's turbid eyes gradually became sharp. He said in a deep voice, "This is the territory of the Iron Bone sect. It's not the place for an inexperienced junior to behave atrociously." Update 7. Today I've been writing and publishing, so for tomorrow's update at midnight, there might only be one update. The remaining 2 updates would be pushed to the day. Thank you for the rewards of the 9 heavens. Please recommend me. Please vote. Chapter 382. This is the territory of the Iron Bone clan. It's not the place for an immature junior to behave atrociously. When Elder Wei said this, although his tone was calm, an extremely strong aura appeared around him. Jun Changshao and Jiangya, who were closest to him, immediately widened their eyes. This aura, this momentum, it was simply invincible. Grade 1 Martial Master, Grade 2 Martial Master, Grade 3 Martial Master. According to the changes in Elder Wei's aura, the system recited the realms. Finally, it paused for a moment and said, "Grade 4 Wu Huang." "What? Grade 4? Wu Huang?" Jun Changshao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He knew that Elder Wei was an old man with a story, but he never thought that he would be an expert of Wu Huang's level. Ai Shang was also dumbfounded. This elder Wei worked in his medicine store. He looked very old, and his cultivation was not very high. How did he suddenly become so overbearing? His domineering aura was used exquisitely. Compared to Elder Bai, whether it was his gaze, aura, or gestures, he was absolutely suppressed. An expert, an expert, an expert. This was the inference of various martial artists, based on the comparison between the two of them. Jiangya, who was behind him, was extremely shocked. He thought to himself, this aura is definitely Wu Huang. It turned out that the sect that he joined not only had an expert who was neither human nor demon, but also an even more terrifying expert. Elder Bai furrowed his brows. To be exact, when Elder Wei no longer hid his cultivation and unleashed his true strength, Elder Bai's heart trembled, and his fingers trembled. Was an ultimate peak martial king very strong? Very strong. Unfortunately, in front of a martial emperor, he was still much, much weaker. Elder Wei. Jun Changshao was wild with joy and transmitted his voice. So you're an expert. If he did not unleash his realm, he would have always thought that Elder Wei was just an outstanding medicine master. If he had known that there was such an awesome expert, he would not have activated the Sect protection formation. Sigh. Elder Wei transmitted his voice. I just want to plant herbs in the iron bone. Unfortunately, the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind will not stop. His back was broad and imposing, but also showed his helplessness. If one were to interpret that sentence with a different meaning, the content would be, can't you cause less trouble and let me be a reclusive expert in peace? When Jiangya attacked, Elder Wei wanted to attack, but in the end he restrained himself. Just now, when Elder Zhan brought people over, he also had the intention of intimidating them. In the end, the sect leader and a group of disciples resolved it. Originally, he thought that he would not have to make a move, and would continue to be a dispirited old man planting herbs. Who would have thought that a peak martial king would appear and threaten the sect master? Thus he could only step forward. What? All the cultivators present widened their eyes, their hearts shocked to the extreme. Ai Shang's jaw dropped when he heard this. Oh my god! A Wu Huang expert was a temporary medicine master in his medicine store. He thought it was very ordinary, and generously gave it to sect leader Jun. Qin Haoran was the most shocked. When he heard the words Wu Huang, he was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. Shen Tong, Situ Wang, and the others were also dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with shock. A martial king and Wu Huang. Was this Iron Bone really a seventh-rate sect? He had mocked and ridiculed them, and now he was here to watch them make a fool of themselves. If he angered them, he would not even know how he died. Old Wei was a martial emperor. Many martial artists were shocked when they found out that Old Wei was a martial emperor. Their expressions froze. Of course, sect leader Jun was the most satisfied. They thought that they would have to retreat into the sect protection formation. But Elder Wei was suddenly possessed by a great god, and confronted the peak martial king. Satisfied? Super satisfied? Elder Wei said lightly. If I'm not wrong, you should be 400 years old. When I became a peak martial king, you were still reincarnated somewhere. Huff huff. As he spoke, a strong pressure spread out, causing Elder Bai to break out in cold sweat. Do you believe it? Elder Wei said. If you blink, I'll destroy your soul. Those words sounded familiar. That's right. Elder Bai had said those words to Jun Changshao in a very pretentious manner just now. However, he said to take one step, while Elder Wei said to blink. That was absolutely domineering. Jun Changshao wanted nothing more than to hug old man Wei's golden thigh. With a face full of worship he said, Great God, please accept my knees. Take me to act tough. Take me to fly. Take me to the top. No. How can he be a hall leader? After this is over, I must give him the position of elder. Gulp. Elder Bai swallowed his saliva. No one knew how painful it was for him to bear the pressure from Wu Huang. As for his eyes, he definitely did not dare to blink. Although the evil sects are unscrupulous, Elder Wei said, they still have to consider the rules of the martial arts world, right? Elder Bai immediately understood the meaning of this sentence and hurriedly said, Sect leader Jun just won 10 rounds. According to the agreement, we will leave and mind our own business from now on. Just now, he said that it was Elder Zhan's agreement and had nothing to do with him. Now he instantly admitted defeat and compromised. Little guy, Elder Wei said, I hope you keep your word. Otherwise, I don't mind going to the God-slaying hall to have a talk with Wei Xinhao. Elder Bai's expression changed again when he heard that. This person, that was the previous hall master of the God-slaying hall. He had already stepped down and was respected as the Supreme Elder. He was Wu Huang and knew the Supreme Elder. He was definitely an expert of the older generation. Senior, please don't worry, Elder Bai said with an incomparably solemn expression. My God-slaying hall has always been a man of our words. We will never go back on our words. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. Just now he was clearly going back on his word, but he actually licked his face and said that he would keep his word. Who? Elder Wei retracted his pressure and pointed to the front. I will count to 3. Take your men and these evil cultivators and disappear immediately. When he said the word disappear, Elder Bai had already left with an afterimage. Elder Zhan and the others also hurriedly carried the injured and retreated as fast as they could. A moment later, more than 10,000 evil cultivators disappeared without a trace. The martial artists of Huaiyang County, who were watching the show, also left. They were afraid that they would be misunderstood and think that they were here to help them destroy the iron bone. After everyone left, Elder Wei shouted in one breath, 1, 2, 3. Jun Changshao almost couldn't hold back and added, blockhead. Sect leader, Elder Wei said, you won't blame me for letting that peak martial king go without permission, right? With Elder Wei's strength, killing him will be easy, but he will also offend the God-slaying hall. Therefore it is the wisest choice to let him go, Jun Changshao said. Elder Wei smiled and began to retract his powerful aura. After a while, his back arched again, and his sharp eyes returned to their turbid state. Sect leader. Elder Wei exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said, I'll go back first. After saying that, he turned and left. The back view he left for everyone was old and dispirited. At that moment, the martial artists of Qingyang County would not underestimate this old man. After all, he was a hidden Wu Huang. Jun Changshao sent an apologetic voice transmission. Elder Wei, I'm sorry. Because of me, you can't continue to live in seclusion and peace. Elder Wei stopped and said, Sect leader, you don't treat me as a member of the Ironbone sect. Jun Changshao smiled brightly. Plop. Elder Wei wasn't paying attention and tripped over a rock under his feet, falling to the ground in a sorry state. Jun Changshao's smile froze, and black lines appeared on his forehead. This old man, is he really a martial emperor? P.S. I won't wait until midnight. I'll post it in advance. I'll get up during the day and write 2 chapters. Everyone is not a saint. Who can be free? I was busy renovating 2 days ago, and didn't have time to write. Everyone please understand me. I dare to work so hard today. Chapter 383. Elder Bai fled with the evil sect of Huaiyang County in a sorry state. That was the end of the conflict. With a martial emperor like Elder Wei in charge, they would not dare to cause any more trouble. The martial artists of Qingyang County were still in a daze. The fact that Iron Bone had won 10 rounds in a row and resolved the situation of death had already shocked them. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, another expert Wu Huang would appear? Just his aura alone was enough to scare a peak martial king to the point that he peed his pants. After the matter ended, Iron Bone had also averted danger, and many martial artists left. On the way, they were still discussing what they had just witnessed, such as the Iron Bone disciples, elders, and even the sect leader's performance in the life and death arena. This day was destined to be unforgettable. Qin Haoran and the alliance members left with their tails between their legs. This time, they did not manage to make a joke out of themselves. They were still worried that if Jun Changshao held a grudge, would he bring Martial King and Wu Huang to bully them? They were thinking too much. If he really wanted to bully them, he would not have let them leave Iron Bone Mountain so easily. If it was before, if Jun Changshao had the strength, he might really go and suppress the 100 Sect alliance. But now, a bunch of trash, a bunch of ants, he could not be bothered with them. As his sect and his own cultivation grew stronger, this 100-sect alliance was not even worth a fart in Jun Changxiao's eyes. The other party just wanted to see a joke, and did not do anything sinister. He just let them stand at the foot of the mountain and look up at Iron Bone like ants. However, the 20 evil sects led by the deicide Hall had attacked and destroyed his own sect. Jun Changxiao would remember this grudge in his heart. When he had the strength in the future, he would definitely send troops to Huayang County. Iron Bone in the main hall. Xia Guangquan, Ai Shang and the rest were invited in. Jun Changxiao sat at the head of the table and cupped his hands. This time, my Iron Bone is in trouble and everyone came to help. Jun will remember this kindness. City Lord Ao said. Sect leader Jun helping Azure Sun County to take revenge for the annihilation of the sects is a favor. We are only here to help with a little bit of effort. To be honest, he didn't do anything at all, and was just a spectator the whole time. But since he was not afraid of the evil faction, and dared to come to the Iron Bone to help, it was a kindness. Therefore, Jun Changxiao said in a clear voice, Patriarch Ai, please give each city lord and patriarch a body sculpting pill on behalf of Jun to express my gratitude. Yes. With a wave of his hand, Ai Shang-yi took out 2 bottles of body-shaping pills, and handed them to the 7 city lords, and more than 20 patriarchs. This, City Lord Ao and the others were dumbfounded. Only 5 body-shaping pills would be auctioned off every month. Even if one had the money, it would be difficult to buy them. The Ai family's patriarch actually took out so many at once. It was simply unbelievable. Also, one sentence from sect leader Jun. Ai Shang was willing to take out so many body-shaping pills. What kind of terrifying face was this? Everyone, Jun Changxiao said. I've already made the arrangements. Please stay for a meal. Sect Master Jun, City Lord Ao clasped his hands and said, I still have things to do in the city. I'll take my leave first. The other city lords and patriarchs also stood up and bid farewell. Jun Changxiao did not urge them to stay. He personally sent them to the door and said, In the future, my Iron Bone will have to rely on everyone in Qingyang County. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Your Iron Bone is so strong. And there's also King Wu and Wu Huang. It should be us relying on you. After some polite words, City Lord Ao and the others left. Xia Guangquan did not leave. Instead, he stood at the door and shook his head. They are wrong. This is a delicacy that will last them a lifetime. That's right. Ai Shangyi agreed. The 2 of them did not leave, because they wanted to eat Lu Wansher's cooking. Sect leader Jun, at the dining table in the cafeteria, Xia Guangquan raised his cup and said, Today's Iron Bone really opened my eyes. First, they won 10 matches in a row. Then, there's the appearance of Elder Wei and Wu Huang. When the news spreads, it will definitely cause a huge commotion. Ai Shangyi also raised his cup. One was the city lord of Qingyang County, and the other was the patriarch of Ai clan. Both of them had a good relationship with Jun Changxiao, so they were naturally very happy. Sigh. Jun Changxiao raised his cup and said, I only want to develop the sect in a low-key manner. Unfortunately, the wind will not stop. Xia Guangquan and Ai Shangyi's mouths twitched. Going to Huayang County to destroy 4 evil sects in a row. This was simply too low-key. Come, Jun Changxiao said. Let's drink. The 3 of them drank to their heart's content. After 3 rounds of drinking, Xia Guangquan raised his cup again and said, Sect leader Jun, if Xinjiang County invades, please help us. This was the real reason why he stayed to eat and drink. The war in southwest Yangzhou could affect Qingyang City at any time. Although City Lord Xia had already made preparations, he still couldn't eat or sleep in peace. Now not only did the Iron Bone sect have a martial king, they also had a martial emperor. This made him realize that if they were present, the Xinjiang County would definitely have scruples about annexing the Azure Sun County. Qingyang City is my home. I won't allow anyone to bully it, Jun Changxiao said. Even if he didn't have any feelings for Qingyang City, just by the fact that City Lord Xia had been supporting him all this time, he wouldn't allow anyone to recklessly offend them. Ai Shangyi said, When the nest is overturned, No eggs will remain intact. If Xinjiang County invades, Huyang City will also be in trouble. Therefore, I hope that sect leader Jun can help us. No problem, Jun Changshao said straightforwardly. Not to mention Huyang City. Just by the fact that the city lords and patriarchs had come to support him today, whoever dared to touch Xinjiang County would be touching him. Of course, the 100 Sect Alliance was excluded. Jun Changshao wasn't in the mood to care about this organization that wanted to see him become a joke. Naturally, he wouldn't help them. After drinking to their heart's content, Xie Guangquan and Ai Shangyi left happily. Sect leader Jun forced the alcohol out of his body and hurried to the herb garden. Elder Wei. When he arrived at the small pavilion outside the herb garden, he cupped his hands and said, "So you're the real boss." Cough cough. Elder Wei, who was sitting on a stone bench, coughed twice and said with a haggard face, "You're an old man with half a foot in the grave. How can you be considered a boss?" Jun Changshao's expression froze. He could feel that Elder Wei's current appearance was much older than before he unleashed his cultivation. Sect leader. Elder Wei's eyes were filled with bitterness as he said, "Although I have Wu Huang's cultivation, I don't have Wu Huang's strength. I can only use my aura to scare people." Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Elder Wei said, "There are many difficult and complicated illnesses in this world. For example, one's strength is declining day by day despite having a high cultivation." "What kind of illness is this?" Jun Changshao asked. Elder Wei shook his head and said, "I've searched all over the Falling Star continent and visited countless famous doctors. The answer I received was that it's an incurable illness." Jun Changshao was silent. Elder Wei's face was slightly pale now. When he thought of how he was tripped at the foot of the mountain just now, he realized that he had paid a great price for unleashing Wu Huang's cultivation. "Elder Wei." Jun Changshao's eyes were firm as he said, "There's no illness in this world that can't be cured. There are only incompetent doctors. I'll definitely find a way to eradicate your difficult illness." "I know my own illness," Elder Wei smiled and said meaningfully. "But sect leader, don't think that you can sit back and relax just because the sect has Wu Huang. You still have to rely on yourself in the future." Chapter 384. Elder Wei was Wu Huang, but he only had the realm and no strength. If Elder Bai had insisted on destroying Iron Bone at that time, he would have been powerless. This was a difficult disease that was very difficult to cure. Elder Wei, who had lived for a long time, knew about his illness, so he did not have any hope. After learning about the situation, Jun Changshao naturally would not let him stay sick. He had to find a way to treat him. The doctors of the Falling Star continent couldn't do it? It's fine. I have the system. I can definitely find a cure. Elder Wei, Jun Changshao said, "I have a high-level healing pill here. Try it first." He did not know that Elder Wei was sick, so he never thought that he would let a normal person take a mid-grade healing pill. The system poured cold water on him. The mid-grade healing pill is only suitable for Wuzong at best. It has no effect on powerhouses like Wu Huang. Jun Changshao knew, but he had to try. What if he was cured? It was a pity. After Elder Wei took it, he was as haggard as ever. Even if the healing pill was effective on Wu Huang, it was only for healing. It definitely could not cure him. "Sect Master," Elder Wei said, "don't worry about me. Just focus on how to make yourself and the sect stronger as soon as possible." Because of the illness, Wu Huang's realm and no strength could not help Iron Bone at all. He hoped that Jun Changshao could rely on his own efforts to become stronger. Treatment could not be rushed. Even if there were healing drugs in the shop, it would depend on luck to refresh them. Therefore, Jun Changshao said seriously, "Let's wait for the spiritual aura to recover." Elder Wei glanced at the medicinal garden and said, "The soil of Iron Bone Mountain is very ordinary. It will take a long time to cultivate medicinal herbs and gather spiritual power. We can only wait." "Oh," Jun Changshao said, "Elder Wei means that if the soil quality is very high, the spiritual aura can recover faster." "That's right," Elder Wei said. Jun Changshao asked, "What kind of soil is it?" Elder Wei said, "The better ones are red earth and leap earth. The better ones are rare earth and spirit earth. The more advanced ones are thick earth and carrier earth. Where can I find thick earth and Zai earth? Jun Changxiao said. Since he knew that there were so many types of soil, he would definitely choose the highest grade. Elder Wei shook his head and said, this kind of soil is extremely rare in the Starfall continent. Even first-rate sects might not have it. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Since that was the case, he would settle for the next best thing, rare earth and spirit soil. However, Elder Wei continued, could it be that sect leader wants to find soil to improve the quality of the Ironbone Mountain? Okay, Jun Changxiao replied. Elder Wei shook his head and said, if you want to improve the geology of an area, you have to do it on a large scale. If it's only about 10 mu, it won't have much effect. How big is this scale? At least 10,000 mu. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes. Not to mention whether or not he could find rare earth. It would be a huge project to improve 10,000 mu of land. Of course, Elder Wei said. If sect leader wants to improve the quality of the soil, I have a way. What way? Jun Changxiao hurriedly asked. Elder Wei was silent for a moment and said, if sect leader can subdue a high-level earth-type dire beast and continuously release its earth attribute, you can slowly improve the quality of the soil. This? Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, but a high-level earth-type dire beast isn't, ga. His voice suddenly stopped. He suddenly thought of something. Wasn't Peppa Boar an earth-type dire beast? Moreover, it was a phantasmal beast. It should be worthy of the word high-level. Right? Elder Wei, Jun Changxiao hurriedly said. Can an earth-type phantasmal beast work? Elder Wei said. Phantasmal beasts are mutated dire beasts. As long as they have earth-type attributes, they will definitely be stronger than other dire beasts. Naturally, they are suitable for improving the quality of the soil. Bang! The sect leader's ball flew out and Peppa Boar, who was curled up, appeared on the grass. Every time he saw such a lazy contract beast, Jun Changxiao couldn't help but sharpen his knife to chop it up. He suppressed his anger and said, Elder Wei, what do you think of it? Elder Wei was very surprised. The sect leader summoned a dire beast with a wave of his hand, but he still looked at it seriously. Then he said a little speechlessly, this looks like a pig, right? He had seen Little Dragon and Ice Lion before, but he had never seen this little guy before. The main reason was that it was too embarrassing, so Jun Changxiao rarely took it out. Even Wu Huang couldn't tell its breed, so he just treated it as a real pig. Jun Changxiao said, Elder Wei, although it looks like a pig, it is a genuine earth-type phantasmal beast. Elder Wei said, in that case, sect leader, please let it release its earth-type attributes. I will see if it can improve the quality of the soil. Bang! Jun Changxiao kicked Peppa Wild Boar's butt and said, stand up and release your earth-type attributes. Coo-coo. Peppa Wild Boar made a sound, and then continued to sleep on the ground, not even opening its eyes. Jun Changxiao Elder Wei. Coo-coo. Outside the herb garden, Peppa Wild Boar ran wildly with its 4 short legs, its face ferocious. Why isn't it sleeping? Why is it so energetic? Because behind it, Jun Changxiao was holding the green dragon crescent blade, and chasing after it with a murderous aura. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also chasing behind, and they advised loudly, Sect leader, you must calm down. It is your contract beast. I don't have a contract beast like this. Sect leader Jun said crazily. I will kill it today and let the disciples eat roast suckling pig. Everyone stopped in unison, holding their chins and saying, we can have this. Bang! Ma Yongning, Dahe and Ariai put down the chopping board. Lu Wanshi, who was wearing an apron, held 2 kitchen knives in her hands and said with a gloomy face, Sect leader, let me cut it later. Coo-coo. Peppa Wild Boar was scared out of its wits when it saw this. Plop. Suddenly its 4 legs kicked, and it fell straight to the ground. Its mouth was crooked, and its eyes were slanted. It was foaming at the mouth, and it seemed to have fainted. Bang! The green dragon crescent blade was inserted in front of its eyes. Bang 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 bang. Cold edge sword, cold light sword, overlord spear, and unyielding iron shield were all inserted around it. Jun Changxiao squatted down and said with a ferocious face like a demon, if you don't want to die, Hurry up and release the earth element. Swoosh. Peppa Wild Boar, who was pretending to be dead, stood up directly. Its eyes were unprecedentedly serious, and brown elements appeared around its body. As expected, Elderway said, "It's an earth element dire beast." Huff huff. A thick aura spread out and gradually turned into a majestic dire beast about 4 to 5 meters tall. It looked like a lion, a tiger, and a leopard. Elderway frowned. As an experienced cultivator, Wu Huang could not tell what kind of dire beast Peppa Wild Boar was from the form it transformed into. He was not the only one. Yi Xingchen had never seen it before. Roar. At this moment, Peppa Wild Boar raised its head and roared. The dire beast that it transformed into also opened its bloody mouth and roared. Instantly, a visible sound wave was formed and spread in the herb garden like a ripple. The sound made everyone's heart tremble. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, the ground that was affected by the sound wave shone with a special luster. Every grain of sand seemed to be covered by it. Chapter 385. Under the threat of its master's various weapons, Peppa Wild Boar obediently activated its phantom soul and roared angrily. The sound was awe-inspiring. At the same time, it also contained a majestic earth attribute that instantly enveloped every grain of dust in the herb garden and carried out a comprehensive cultivation. However, with just a roar, Jun Changshao said, "Elder Wei, how is it?" Elder Wei squatted on the ground, picked up a pile of soil, and felt it slightly. He murmured, "There are some changes." "A little?" Jun Changshao was not satisfied. Then with a gloomy face, he looked at Peppa Wild Boar and said, "Don't just stand there, continue roaring." The chubby little guy's eyes were suddenly filled with tears. It felt wronged and could not express its bitterness. "Hurry up," Jun Changshao scolded. Phew! Peppa Wild Boar was afraid that its master would take out another set of weapons, so it hurriedly activated its phantom soul again and roared. Although the sound was not as strong as before, the earth attribute was still powerful. Elder Wei grabbed a handful of soil and said, "Sect leader, your contract beast has a good understanding of the earth attribute. If it continues to activate its phantom soul every day and release its own attributes, it should be able to improve the soil in the herb garden very quickly." "How long?" Jun Changshao asked. "If it can release dozens of times a day, it will take about 10 days to half a month," Elder Wei deduced. Plop! Peppa Wild Boar directly fell to the ground with its 4 legs, and tears flowed uncontrollably. "I'm also Master's contract beast. Why am I so unlucky?" Jun Changshao said. "From now on, you will live in the herb garden and release dozens of times a day. When the soil is improved, you will be put into the sect leader's ball." Peppa Wild Boar heard this and cried even more miserably. "Of course," Jun Changshao said. "If you dare to slack off during this period, you will be made into a roasted suckling pig." Under the threat of its master, Peppa Wild Boar began to improve the soil in the herb garden. It had to release its earth attribute dozens of times a day and would collapse on the ground at night. At night, Jun Changshao sat in the study, opened the beginner grade sword path aptitude liquid, and drank it happily. It tasted similar to the aptitude improvement liquid. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Sword Dao aptitude. A notification sounded in his ears. In Jun Changshao's sea of consciousness, some strange knowledge seemed to appear out of thin air. This knowledge was all related to the way of the sword. Understood, understood. Jun Changshao murmured, his eyes gradually brightening. He walked out of the study and went to the small practice field in the inner yard. He took out the mid-grade cold light sword. After consuming the elementary Sword Dao aptitude liquid, a lot of Sword Dao knowledge had been instilled into him, allowing him to have a great understanding of the first form of the Ling Jian God art, the one-word sword technique. To be more precise, it was as if he had been enlightened and suddenly saw the light. Shwa! Jun Changshao placed one hand on the hilt of his sword, and a sword aura emanated from his body. It was as if he had transformed into a sharp sword. Zhou Hong, who was comprehending the Sword Dao, immediately sensed it. He turned around and asked in surprise, "Sect Master, he is also a sword cultivator?" "Not bad." Jun Changxiao was also a swordsman now. There were different levels in swordsmanship. What level was he at now? The simplest and most direct way to judge was how many sword moves he could make in one breath. Take Zhou Hong for example. After coming to Iron Bone, he could make 23 sword moves in one breath, without the support of sword techniques. He was a rare seedling in the way of the sword. Take Yi Xingchen for example. Although he was not a professional sword cultivator, he had a lot of experience in martial arts. He forcefully comprehended the one-word sword technique, and could make 24 sword moves in one breath. Judging from the sect master's aura, he should have a good understanding of the way of the sword. It shouldn't be difficult for him to make 15 sword moves in one breath. Zhou Hong judged from a professional point of view. Yi Xingchen, who had just returned from the Tower of Trials, also saw Jun Changxiao. He was quite surprised and asked, "He's a sword cultivator?" No. He had never seen him use it before. Clang! The cold light sword was unsheathed, and sword light flashed. Shwa! Shwa! The sword aura turned into a white light, shining dazzlingly in the dark night. Clang! Jun Changxiao sheathed his sword, and his face was unusually calm. Zhou Hong said in surprise, 20 sword moves. This, Yi Xingchen was also dumbfounded. Jun Changxiao did not use any sword techniques when he attacked. To be able to make 20 sword moves, he was definitely a good seedling with a good aptitude in the way of the sword. Of course, it could not be compared to Zhou Hong's 23 sword moves in one breath. However, Jun Changxiao had just taken the elementary sword Dao aptitude liquid, and had the knowledge of the way of the sword. This was the first time he used it to test his skills. Clang! He attacked again. Shush! 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 The white light of the sword shadow spread out. When Jun Changxiao sheathed his sword, he made 50 sword moves in one breath. This time he used the one-word speed formula. Not bad, not bad. The system praised. Given your understanding of the way of the sword, you should be comparable to an upper-middle level swordsman. Jun Changxiao said to himself. True enough, the so-called elementary items in the system are not simple even in the other world. Indeed, they were not simple. When Yi Xingchen first comprehended the one-word sword technique, he could only make 24 sword moves in one breath. He could make 50 sword moves in one breath. He was really quite powerful. Zhou Hong, who cultivated later, could only make 60 sword moves in one breath when he used the one-word sword technique for the first time. It was not difficult to come to this conclusion, based on the number of sword moves. In terms of the way of the sword, Jun Changxiao was stronger than Yi Xingchen and weaker than Zhou Hong, but not by much. I didn't expect this guy to be a hidden master of the way of the sword. Yi Xingchen was secretly shocked. No. He hurriedly corrected himself. He is a dual cultivator of sword and martial arts. Yi Xingchen recognized Jun Changxiao's martial arts ability very much. After all, he was able to reach second-grade Wuzong at such a young age. Even in his previous life, it was difficult for him to do so. Now that he had an extremely high aptitude in the way of the sword, he was definitely a one-in-a-million genius, in both the way of the sword and the way of the sword. The so-called dual cultivation of the sword and the way of the sword seemed very powerful. But in reality, it was useless. Because cultivating the way of the sword and the way of the sword at the same time would only waste more time. It was definitely not as fast as cultivating the way of the sword and the way of the sword. Of course, if a dual cultivator could reach a higher level, especially the level of the king of sword and martial arts, his combat strength would be incomparable to that of a single cultivator. At the same level, a martial cultivator could not defeat a sword cultivator, and a sword cultivator could not defeat a dual cultivator of the sword and the way of the sword. Over the years, there had been many dual cultivators of the sword and the way of the sword in the Starfall continent. However, the number of dual cultivators who had reached the level of king of sword and the way of the sword could be counted with 10 fingers. Why was this? Because when one reached the pinnacle of the sword and the way of the sword, there would be a multiple choice problem. Either one would be stuck at the level of the sword and the way 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 of the sword. Many dual cultivators of the sword and the way of the sword, and the way of the sword reached the pinnacle of Wuzong first, because they could not bear to cultivate the other way of the sword, or because they wanted to become stronger faster. They had no choice but to focus on one way. In short, dual cultivation of the sword and the way of the sword, and the way of the sword was a blessing and a curse. From historical experience, focusing on one way of the sword was the most correct choice. Jun Changshao did not know that he had become a 1 in a million dual cultivator of the sword and the way of the sword. After he returned to the study, he asked, "Is there any mid-grade sword aptitude liquid?" "Yes," the system said. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, "So I don't need to comprehend the way of the sword at all. I just need to wait for the mid-grade one and use it to improve?" "Yes," the system said. "Clap." Jun Changshao clapped his hands and said, "Perfect." Therefore, the explanation of the dual cultivation of the sword and the way of the sword was only limited to the martial artists of the Falling Star continent. With the system in hand, he was completely a super bug that jumped out of the 5 elements and was not in the 3 realms. Cultivating the way of the sword and the way of the sword together? No way. He only needed to focus on the way of the martial way, and the way of the sword could only be improved by consuming the aptitude liquid. Shwa. Jun Changshao's mind moved, pulled out the shop, and then rubbed his hands, saying, "Now that I have more than 4,000 contribution points, I must squander them well." Chapter 386. Sect Leader Jun, who had 4,760 contribution points, clicked on the mid-level store without hesitation, giving off the feeling of a nouveau riche. The last time he refreshed the mid-level store, he bought the Mystical Gate 32 formation. Because he didn't have enough contribution points, he didn't look at the other products carefully. This time he looked carefully. If he saw something he liked, he would buy it without hesitation. Needless to say, the first time he refreshed the mid-level store, there were a lot of good products. Jun Changshao looked at the 3rd row and saw a product called Mission Publisher. Wasn't this the thing the system said before? Jun Changshao quickly clicked on the introduction. Item Mission Publisher. Introduction. It can automatically publish missions of different difficulty every day. After the sect disciples complete them, they will receive the corresponding contribution points. Advantage. There is no need to wait for the sect to be full to trigger missions for the disciples to gain experience and obtain resources. Disadvantage. Must have the sect mission board vending machine to use it normally. After the disciples complete the sect missions, the host will not receive any rewards. Price, 1,000 contribution points. Seeing the disadvantages, Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "I have both of them. I can use them after buying them. But if the disciples complete the sect missions and don't receive any rewards, that's a bit fucked up." The system said, "There are more and more disciples in the sect. If the sect is full, it won't be enough for each person to complete one mission. Therefore, the host is recommended to buy 5 stars. I'll buy it." Jun Changshao clicked on the purchase button. Ding! The host has spent 1,000 contribution points. You have obtained Mission Publisher X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 3760500. After buying this product, Jun Changshao continued to look. Finally, he saw a martial skill called Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash. Just from the name, it's very strong. He hurriedly clicked on the introduction. The content was item, Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash Introduction. A martial skill of the Scarlet Heaven Emperor from a certain plane. It is fierce and powerful, and its killing power is extremely strong. Advantage. The longer it accumulates power, the stronger it becomes. It can be used as a trump card. If it's a fire-type martial cultivator, it will be much easier to comprehend, and its strength will increase greatly. Disadvantage. This move is extremely strong, and is suitable for male martial cultivators. It's not suitable for female cultivators, even transvestites. Price, 2,000 contribution points. Grade, mid-divine grade. Fuck. Jun Changshao almost jumped up and said excitedly, "Another divine grade martial skill." The best part was that it was a mid-divine grade weapon, suitable for fire element cultivators. It was completely tailor-made for him. Oh, if he didn't mention it, he would have forgotten about it. Not only was Sect leader Jun a dual cultivator of sword and martial arts, he was also a fire cultivator. Of course, the so-called fire elementalist was actually a branch of armaments. The technical term was called fire elemental armaments. It's normal, the system said calmly. The chances of getting a divine grade martial skill in an intermediate level mall are much higher than in a beginner level mall. It's just too expensive. 2,000 contribution points made Jun Changxiao's heart ache a little. The system said, "Host, you don't have to buy it if you think it's too expensive. Quickly refresh it." Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, "Only a fool wouldn't buy it. Only a fool would refresh." Ding! Host has spent 2,000 contribution points and obtained Scarlet Firmament Raging Flame/X1. It has been transferred into the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points 1760500. Originally, he had 4,760 contribution points, but after buying 2 items, he only had 1,760 points left. The items in the intermediate level mall were really expensive. Ding! Detected that host has bought a spiritual force martial skill from the mall, automatically matching it with the sect martial skill. Jun Changxiao retreated and saw the words Scarlet Firmament Raging Flame / added at the end of the sect martial skill. This meant that not only could he learn it, but male disciples could also learn it. Copy. Sect leader Jun spent another 50 contribution points and copied 5,000 Scarlet Firmament Raging Flame / With so many mid-divine grade martial skills, if they were to be thrown into the outside world, it would definitely cause chaos. After buying, Jun Changxiao hurriedly returned to the intermediate level mall. He was afraid that if he looked at another item, he would spend all his contribution points. Schwa. He opened the beginner level mall. There were 1,710 contribution points left. Sect leader Jun, who had OCD, had to use them. Ding! Sect contribution points 1700500. The beginner level mall changed and new items appeared. Because Jun Changxiao had bought a lot of good things in the intermediate level mall, he only looked at the beginner level items briefly. Suddenly his gaze stopped at the back row. It was a picture of a gun, named God Modified, AWM Sniper Rifle. "Aya, holy shit," Jun Changxiao exclaimed. Another sniper rifle refreshed. The system couldn't help but ridicule. Dog shit luck. Although Jun Changxiao didn't know much about firearms, he had played a lot of FPS shooting games, and AWM sniper rifles were undoubtedly the most common. In terms of power and performance, it was definitely stronger than the Type 88 sniper rifle. There was a more important point. This wasn't a magic modification, but a god modification. Sect leader Jun had refreshed the mall countless times, and there were a lot of magic modified items, but the only god modification item was the green dragon crescent blade. He clicked on the description, and the contents were as follows. Item: God modified, AWM sniper rifle description, military bolt action sniper rifle. Effect: fast firing rate, long range, strong penetrating power. Weakness: magazine capacity of 5 rounds, strong recoil. Special effect: activating super weapon mode. Can gather 5 bullets together to form a super bullet. Price: 500 contribution points. As expected, Jun Changxiao said. The God-modified Green Dragon Crescent Blade has a special effect. So does the God-modified AWM Sniper Rifle. Just because of the special effect, he had to buy it. Ding! Host has spent 500 contribution points. Obtained God-modified AWM Sniper Rifle X1 has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points 1100500. In a short period of time, Sect leader Jun had spent 3,660 contribution points, falling from a nouveau riche to a person at the bottom. However, obtaining a Sect publisher, a god-ranked martial skill, and a god-modified sniper rifle, to him, was still very worth it. Schwa. Jun Changxiao waved his hand, and took out the heavy AWM sniper rifle. The body of the gun was very long, and it was painted with camouflage colors, definitely the most common design in FPS games. Its power should be much stronger than the Type 88. Sect leader. The next day, Xiao Ziji played with the AWM sniper rifle, and said, "This newly developed gun doesn't seem to be any different from the Type 88. Whether there is a difference or not, you'll know once you try it." Jun Changxiao said. "Okay." Xiao Ziji stood up and raised the gun. The bullets used in the God-modified AWM sniper rifle were not magnum bullets, but the same bullets that were condensed from crystal nuclei. Jun Changxiao reminded, "The power of this gun might be a bit strong. You should lie down and wear the shoulder pads." Xiao Ziji grinned and said, "Disciple's skin is thick. I should be able to withstand it." With the increase in cultivation and the strength of his body, using the Type 88 sniper rifle, even if he did not wear shoulder pads, he would be able to steadily suppress the recoil. Bang! The sound of the gunshot was deafening. Holy shit! Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. This is definitely the sound of a cannon firing. Turning his head to look, he saw the AWM sniper rifle smoking on the grass. Xiao Ziji was nowhere to be seen. If he did not guess incorrectly, sure enough, when he turned his head, he saw that on a tree 20 to 30 meters away, Xiao Ziji was hanging on a branch, foaming at the mouth, and both of his boots had been sent flying. Sect leader. The power, isn't it a bit strong? Jun Changxiao ignored him, and said with a burning gaze, "This gun is awesome. P.S. 2 is stronger during the day. It should be more than 1, depending on my condition. After the peak of the evil sect invasion, I will definitely collapse for a while. I'm a man, you know." Chapter 387. Xiao Ziji, a 6th grade martial master, was holding an AWM and shooting while standing, but he was sent flying more than 20 meters away. The recoil was really strong. It was also sect leader Jun's fault. In order to test the power of the sniper rifle, he didn't use low-grade bullets but high-grade ones. Poor Xiao Ziji. His muscles were stiff from the recoil, and he was still holding the gun with his neck tilted. When he returned to the sect, he was greeted by the senior and junior brothers. "Junior brother Xiao, what happened to you? Could it be a brand new cultivation method? Let me try." Bang! Suddenly, a gunshot came from the back of the mountain, causing everyone's ears to buzz. Boom! There was another sound and the ground shook. What's going on? Could it be the mountain collapsed? Let's go and take a look. The disciples hurried to the back of the mountain. As soon as they entered, they were all stunned. The first thing they saw when they entered the back of the mountain was that there was a small mountain in the distance, but it was now cut in half. "Senior brother, what's going on?" Li Fei asked in shock. Su Xiaoma's mouth twitched. "You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask?" "Look!" someone exclaimed. "The sect leader is on the tree." "The sect leader is on the tree?" Everyone looked over and saw the sect leader. Hanging on the tree, his eyelids rolled up, and white foam came out of his mouth. "Not good, not good. The sect leader is injured. Quick, go to the medicine hall to save him." The iron bone was in chaos. On the training field, sect leader Jun was holding the gun with his hand, and he was doing morning exercises with his disciples with his neck tilted. After Xiao Ziji tried the gun, he also tried it. He even activated the special effect, and 5 bullets were combined into 1 super bullet. In the end, he was shaken to this extent. Although it was tragic, he was happy, because of the special effect of the modified AWM sniper rifle. Its power was terrifying. A small mountain in the back of the mountain was blown up, and it was comparable to a mortar. "Can the martial king take it?" Jun Changxiao asked. System. In the past, it had always emphasized that the strength of firearms was ultimately limited. If one wanted to become stronger, they had to rely on martial arts techniques and weapons that were suitable for the world of martial arts. Now that the God-modified AMW had blasted away the small mountain with a single shot, they were once again slapped in the face. The system said, "This gun's special effects are very strong, but does the host still expect to rely on special effects to hit a martial king every time?" "Of course not," Jun Changxiao said. I can take it and go to the evil sects and destroy their sections. The system was speechless. You're using the AMW like an Italian cannon. Can't I? After testing the power of the spear, Jun Changshao was very satisfied. He planned to find some time to go to the Yin sect in Huayang County. If the departing cultists saw the power of the AWM super bullet and knew what this guy was thinking, they would definitely be trembling in fear. Mission Pavilion. Jun Changshao walked in after finishing his morning exercises. After the last round of sect missions were completed, there were no more missions issued. There were no disciples inside, so it seemed empty and desolate. Schwa. He took out the mission issuer. From its appearance, it looked more like a TV remote control. There were only 2 buttons on it, on and off. This is too simple. Jun Changshao was speechless. He pressed the on button. Swoosh, the sect mission board suddenly lit up. All kinds of missions were presented. There were 1-star, 2-star, and 2-star missions. As such, there were missions on the mission board every day. When the disciples received the missions and completed them, not only could they take the opportunity to gain experience, but they could also obtain contribution points to buy the required items. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unfortunately, most of the goods in the vending machine in the disciples' shop were of lower quality. The only thing that had value was the chi-gathering elixir. The system said, "Do the hosts still hope that the goods inside are all kinds of divine weapons and skills?" "That's not it," Jun Changshao said. The system said, "Therefore, the value of the disciples' shop is that it can provide a necessary guarantee for all the disciples. If there are really many high-end goods, then everyone has a system." These words made Jun Changshao speechless. Furthermore, the system said, "Some of the goods in the disciples' shop are better than those in the large sections. As the sect grows in size, it becomes more important." "That makes sense," Jun Changshao said. Various high-level martial arts and weapons had to rely on one's own system and various functions. The disciples' shop was for the general public. It was normal that the goods inside were ordinary. This was only compared to Sect Master Jun's system. If this was placed in any sect, it would definitely be super awesome. Of course, the system added, when the host sect level and construction are higher, the disciples' shop will automatically replace the goods with better ones. But in short, it will not be too amazing. Understood. Jun Changshao called Li Qingyang over and told him that missions had been opened in the mission board. He asked the disciples to come and collect them. After a while, a large number of disciples gathered in the mission board. They crowded around the mission board. Although there were elixirs and spirit gathering arrays in Iron Bone, who would complain about more resources? Therefore, they had to complete missions to exchange for the chi-gathering elixir. Those who were strong would take on high-star missions. Those who were weak would take on low-star missions. Except for the inner sect disciples. Because their focus now was to become stronger, all resources were provided by Jun Changshao. The sect's mission board, vending machine mission board. The combination of the 3 gave Iron Bone a complete mission system. It would continue to be the norm. What a pity. The missions posted by the mission board would only give disciples contribution points after completing them. Jun Changshao would not get anything. Otherwise, the contribution points and achievement points would be inexhaustible. I still have to rely on my own hard work to create. Sitting in the main hall, Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "There is still a bottle of supreme grade aptitude modification elixir. Who should I give it to?" Li Qingyang and the others all had supreme grade spirit roots. Therefore, they were considered as the second batch of inner sect disciples. Long Xiang's growth is not bad. He can be nurtured, Jun Changshao murmured. "Qingyang," he said, "what do you think?" "Sect leader," Li Qingyang said. "Junior brother Long's aptitude is without a doubt, and he is also very hard-working in his cultivation. But recently, his mood has been a little low, as if there is something bothering him." As the head butler, he was always concerned about the situation of his junior brothers. "Call him over." Yes. Not long after, Long Xiang walked in and cupped his hands. "Sect leader," Jun Changshao said, "I heard that you haven't been very active in your cultivation these few days. Is there something on your mind? No. No. Long Xiang said. This tone, this small expression between his eyebrows. Who would believe that there was nothing on his mind? Jun Changshao held his chin and said, if there is anything bothering you, you must boldly say it. Sect leader will help you solve your problems. Long Xiang was silent for a moment, then clenched his fists and mustered up his courage. Sect leader, can I go home for a while? Why do you want to go home? Jun Changshao said. Long Xiang said, in 5 days, it will be the day of my family's large competition. This disciple wants to participate. TSK. Jun Changshao drank a mouthful of tea and said, a family also has a large competition, it's not simple. Long Xiang said, Sect leader, since things have come to this disciple will not hide it from you. I am a direct descendant of the Long family in Longyang City. Puffed. Jun Changshao spat out a mouthful of tea. First there was the Lily Sacred Sect, and now there was the Longyang City. The names of the sects and cities in this foreign world were really slippery. Longyang City Long family? Li Qingyang, who was at the side, was startled and said in shock. That is a big family that is comparable to the 4 or 5 sects. Chapter 388. There were many cities in southwest Yangzhou, and the strongest was the heavenly mandate Imperial City. If the Imperial City was considered a first-tier city, then there were many quasi-first-tier cities, such as Longyang City. This Longyang City did not mean that it was good. Don't think too much. There were many forces in Longyang City, and there were many experts. It was said that it was the most promising city to become the second imperial city in southwest Yangzhou. There were 3 major families in the city: the Long family, the Qi family, and the Ren family, as well as many other small and medium-sized families. No matter how small those small clans were, as long as they came to the cities of the Azure Sun County, they would definitely be a huge existence. Long Xiang came from Longyang City, from the Long family. Why did he join the Iron Bone? That was a long story. Would you believe me if I wrote a few chapters? So to put it simply, although Long Xiang was a direct descendant of the Long family, and had good potential, for some reason, he could not understand the family's martial arts. As a member of the Long family, he could not cultivate the Long family's martial arts. This was no different from the trash in traditional novels. So Long Xiang was naturally mocked by his own family, and ignored by the higher-ups. Xiang, look, I just learned the Dragon Roar Palm. What do you think? Oh, I forgot, you can't learn it at all. Xiang went to the martial technique pavilion again. Did he not realize that he can't cultivate the family's martial arts? I even suspect that this kid is a direct descendant of the Long family. Otherwise, why can't he understand the most common Long family martial arts? Long Xiang pretended not to hear the mocking and discussions of his own family, but he clenched his fists every time he returned to his room. They have spiritual roots, and I'm stronger than them. They can't cultivate fast, but I can break through quickly with the most common mental cultivation method on the market. Why can they cultivate the Long family's martial arts, but I can't? I can't accept this. Master, if you can't cultivate the Long family's martial arts, your future will be limited. Why don't you let Long Xiang manage the family business? One of the elders had said this before. Long Xiang was furious when he heard this. Managing the family business meant that he could no longer cultivate martial arts, and he would be a marginal figure in the Long family. I don't agree. He rushed into the hall, and loudly voiced his thoughts in front of the patriarch and elders. Then, he was punished with 50 strokes of the cane. Long Xiang's fellow clansmen, who were originally weaker than him, began to come into contact with more of the Long family's martial arts. Every time they came to show off, Long Xiang's mental state was on the verge of collapse. On the eve of being assigned to manage the family business, he finally couldn't take it anymore, and secretly packed his luggage, resolutely leaving the Long family that he had lived in for more than 10 years. Long family. Before leaving, Long Xiang stood under the night sky and looked at the signboard with the words Long family. With a determined gaze he said, I will come back. I will tell you that even if I don't cultivate the Long family's martial arts, I, Long Xiang, can still become stronger. From today onwards, the wide sea allows the fish to leap, and the high sky allows the birds to fly. Then, as soon as he turned around, he was caught by the family's experts and was beaten 50 times. It was only when he was sent to manage the sect's business that he found an opportunity to escape. Long Xiang, who had left his family, had no one to rely on, and had lost all his resources. If he wanted to become stronger, he had to rely on himself. At the beginning, he had planned to be a rogue cultivator, but he had unintentionally passed by the Azure Sun County and heard that Li Qingyang and Mo Shangfei had fought and used a spiritual force-type martial skill. Why was he not liked in the family and was repeatedly bullied? Wasn't it because of his martial arts? I can't cultivate the Long family's martial arts, but I can cultivate other martial arts. Then, I can use the martial arts I learned to defeat my fellow clansmen, who cultivate the Long family's martial arts, and prove myself. As a result, Long Xiang went to the Iron Bone. He, Li Tian, Ling Yuanxue, Yang Yuhua, and the others became the second batch of disciples. At that time, Long Xiang's idea was very simple. After learning self-slash, he would secretly leave and transfer to other sects to learn martial arts. In the end, a single slip would cause everlasting sorrow. And when he looked back, 100 years had passed. What did this mean? In other words, stepping 1 foot into the Iron Bone was equivalent to falling into a bottomless abyss and never being able to climb out again. One day, when he recalled the past, he was already happily eating Lu Wancher's fried rice and saying that it was really fragrant. Sect leader. Long Xiang clenched his fists and said, "This is my story." Jun Changxiao was silent. Xiao Ziji was silent. Lu Qianqian was silent. Yi Xingchen was silent. Su Xiaoma was silent. Wait a minute. Long Xiang looked at the group of senior brothers behind him with a wonderful expression and said while grabbing his hair, "Why are all of you here? When did you all come? Also, why was Lu Wancher wiping her tears? Was my story that sad?" Sect leader. Lu Wancher's eyes were red as she sobbed. Senior brother Long's background is too tragic. Everyone nodded. The corner of Long Xiang's mouth twitched, as 10,000 grass mud horses ran wildly in his heart. Senior brother Su, when you nod, can you not laugh? Senior martial brother Li, when you nod your head, can you stop picking your nose? And Lu Wancher, you're holding a green onion in your hand. Are you crying from the bottom of your heart? Or are you crying because of the spicy smell? Pa! Just as Long Xiang was cursing in his heart, Jun Changxiao walked down, patted his shoulder, and said seriously, "The disciples of the Iron Bone clan can never be underestimated. I will allow you to go home and participate in the competition." "Thank you, sect leader." Just as he was about to leave, he was stopped by Jun Changxiao. "Since you snuck out, you will definitely be punished when you return." Long Xiang was silent. He should have gone to manage the family business, but in the end he left. If he returned to the Long family, he would definitely be unlucky. "So," Jun Changxiao said, "I will go with you." Looking at the sect leader holding his head high and puffing out his chest, Long Xiang's eyes were filled with deep admiration. At the foot of the mountain, Long Xiang's shoulders drooped as he rode on the Hurricane Wolf, traveling unhappily. The sect leader was personally accompanying him to Longyang City. How could he not be happy? Because behind him were Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, Su Xiaoma, Tian Qi, Li Fei, and even Lu Wancher and Yao Minjing. I'm going back to the family to participate in the competition, not to fight. Why did I bring so many people? Xiang. Jun Changxiao, who was riding on the Hurricane Wolf King in front, said, "Although you are a direct descendant of the Long family, you are also a disciple of my Iron Bone. I hope that you can obtain the first place in this family competition and show the might of the sect." Long Xiang said with a serious gaze, "This disciple will not disappoint the sect leader." Although he had initially come to Iron Bone to learn martial arts, after a long period of contact, he had completely recognized this sect, the sect leader, and his fellow disciples. "Long family, I Long Xiang am coming back. Prepare to tremble in fear." At that moment, His eyes flickered with a strong fighting spirit, and his iron bones straightened even more. Junior Brother Long, is there any fun place in Longyang City? Junior Brother Long, are there many beauties in Longyang City? Junior Brother Long, are there any special dishes and wine in Longyang City? Long Xiang, who had just nurtured a heroic aura, instantly fell to the bottom after being asked by Su Xiaoma and the others. His shoulders drooped as he howled in his heart dejectedly. They're not going to cheer. They're going to Longyang City to play. Chapter 389. From Qingyang City to Longyang City, at normal speed, it would take at least 7 to 8 days. However, Jun Changshao and the others had wind-type beasts, so if they followed the official road, they would be able to arrive in about a day. Of course, there were still 5 days before the Long family's large competition, so the time was very relaxed. Jun Changshao was not in a hurry. Every time he reached a beautiful place, he would take out his magic-modified camera and take photos with his disciples as a souvenir. Hoo-hoo! In the bamboo forest, flames rose. Lu Wancher passed over the skewers that she had finished grilling and said with a smile, "Sect Master, has my cooking improved?" Her cute little face was filled with the words, "Praise me, praise me." Jun Changshao took a bite and praised, "Not bad, not bad. The student has surpassed the master." Lu Wancher's smile became even more brilliant. "Minjing here." She passed the skewer over. Yao Minjing received it, and after eating she laughed. "Sister Dudu, this skewer is really delicious." The little lowly had joined Iron Bone for a period of time. However, because of her age, she had never come into contact with martial arts. She had always followed Lu Wancher, and became a little shadow that could not be shaken off. Li Qingyang passed the mountain spring water that he had just taken over, and said, "The water is very sweet, little junior sister apprentice. Do you want to try it?" "Thank you, senior apprentice brother." Yao Minjing took the water bag and drank a few mouthfuls, a smile appearing on her small face. The little girl had just joined Iron Bone, so she had a strong resistance. Senior brothers and senior sisters cared for him in every possible way, and only then did he gradually open his heart. Yao Minjing had lost Grandpa Lu, and gained a sect with love. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. Sect leader. Su Xiaoma drank a bowl of wine and said with a grin, "Cultivating in the sect every day is a bit boring. It's not bad to come out for a walk." Long Xiang muttered to himself on the verge of collapse. As expected, cheering is secondary, the real purpose is to play. TSK. Yi Xingchen chewed on the skewer, and thought to himself unhappily, "That guy is going to participate in the clan competition. Why did he bring us here? Isn't this a waste of time?" Right now he was more concerned about cultivation. Unless it was something related to the sect, such as the invasion of the evil sects, they wouldn't care about anything else. Under the dual comprehension of the Taishan Sutra and the body metamorphose scripture, Yi Xingchen's cultivation speed gradually revealed itself. It was possible for him to step into the 8th grade of martial master at any time. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were still stuck at the 6th grade martial master realm. They were still a short distance away from breaking through. Seriously. His speed of improvement was very impressive, but Yi Xingchen still felt that it was not fast enough. After all, the purpose of his rebirth was to drag the Empress down from her pedestal. With his current cultivation as a martial master, if he were to seek revenge on that woman, he would only be reduced to ashes with a single glance. Shwa! Shwa! On the official road leading to Longyang City, more than 10 hurricane wolves were galloping. Everywhere they passed, blue whirlwinds were left behind. Fuck. The thing that ran past me just now seemed to be a gale wolf, right? There's no way a gale wolf can run that fast. Could it be a hurricane wolf? Oh my god. Could it be a disciple of the Iron Bone that just passed by? On the official road, many martial artists suddenly exclaimed. It was no secret that the Iron Bone had a large number of hurricane wolves on their way to Huayang County to destroy the 4 evil sections. Therefore, Jun Changshao did not choose to keep a low profile. Riding a hurricane wolf on the road, so awesome. Not only that, but this seemingly 7th grade Iron Bone also has a martial king and Wu Huang. The peak martial king of the God-slaying hall was scared away. In the past few days, the news of the invasion of the evil sects in Huayang County had already spread in all the counties. It had become the hottest topic at present. Iron Bone had won 10 consecutive battles, and Wu Huang's appearance had scared off the peak martial king. All the forces and rogue martial artists were shocked. They even suspected that it was a rumor. The Battle of the Sacred Spring Sect, the destruction of 4 6th-grade evil sects in Huayang County, and the frightening of the peak martial king under the life and death arena. Many things combined made Iron Bone's reputation soar. To be exact, the name of Iron Bone had already resounded throughout southwest Yangzhou. The most shocking thing was that this was only a 7th-grade sect. At the certification headquarters in southwest Yangzhou, Elder Zhou received the news and laughed heartily. Sect leader Jun, everything you've done during this period of time is very explosive. He had personally certified the top 3 of Iron Bone. Now that he had performed so strongly, he was naturally in a good mood. Hall Master Yi Tianjian shook his head and said, "First, he challenged the Sacred Spring Sect, then offended the Demon Fiend Sect, and now he has a grudge with the God-slaying Hall. This little guy is also a troublemaker." If Jun Changshao heard this, he would definitely argue with him. The reason for challenging the Sacred Spring Sect was that the Spirit Spring Sect had plotted against him first. The reason for offending the Demon Fiend Sect was that the other party wanted to snatch the saber. The God-slaying Hall was also worried about nothing and had to stand up for the destroyed sect. "I was just defending myself. How did I cause trouble?" If one had to talk about causing trouble, then going to Huayang County to destroy the 4 evil sects could barely be counted. But then again, only others were allowed to bully their own disciples openly, but they couldn't bring their disciples to bully them? Han Shan asked Shurda. "Someone slandered me, bullied me, humiliated me, laughed at me, despised me, cheated me. How should I deal with it?" Shurda said, "Just tolerate him, let him, avoid him, tolerate him, respect him, and ignore him. Wait a few more years, then look at him." This was a kind of open-minded, detached, magnanimous, and free and easy performance. If Han Shan asked Jun Changshao, his answer would definitely be, "Just scold him, spit on him, hit him, kick him, beat him, torture him, and torture him to death. After this, look at him, he's absolutely obedient." Unbelievable, unbelievable. In the main hall of the Long family in Longyang City, the current patriarch of the Long family, Long Patian, sat at the head of the table, his eyes filled with disbelief. He had already received the news that the Iron Bone had Wu Huang and scared away the experts of the God-slaying Hall. He had also heard a little about this Iron Bone clan after challenging the Haoqi sect, but he didn't pay attention to it. After all, it was just a low-level sect from a low-level county. Even if an 8th-rate sect defeated a 6th-rate sect, it wasn't worth paying attention to. Who would have thought that they would first challenge the Sacred Spring Sect and then defeat 2 martial kings? All kinds of news came in one go, so it was hard for him not to pay attention to it. "Patriarch," an elder of the Long family said, "I heard that many youths who weren't very talented would have a good improvement after joining the Iron Bone. The number 1 genius of Qingyang County, Li Qingyang, joined the Iron Bone when he was only at the 10th stage of the Meridian Opening Realm. Now he has already entered the 6th stage of the Martial Master Realm. His progress can be said to be rapid," another elder said. "Tsk. Someone praised. This sect leader Jun is not simple." "Patriarch," the elder who spoke first said, "This old man thinks that we can choose a few disciples with ordinary talent to join the Iron Bone. Perhaps they will have a good improvement. Our Long family's direct descendants are all outstanding. It's not easy to find those with ordinary talent." Someone said narcissistically, "If Ziyang didn't run away, letting him cultivate in the Iron Bone would not be better than idling at home." As soon as these words were said, the elders immediately shook their heads. Although their Long family's direct descendants were not all top geniuses, if they were released, the big sects and even sects would definitely fight for them. The only exception was that he had a high spiritual root, but he couldn't cultivate the family's martial arts. "Humph." Long Patian slapped the armrest and said angrily, Let that brat manage the business. But he was unwilling to sneak away. When we find him, we must punish him severely. All the elders were silent. They knew that the patriarch was just talking. If he really wanted to punish his own son, it would definitely be a few dozen beatings. Patriarch. At this moment, the guard at the door hurried over and said, "Young Master Ziyang is back. P.S. Here's another chapter. Quick recommendation tickets, monthly tickets, let's go." Chapter 390. Long Ziyang's father was Long Patian. In the eyes of the servants, he was the young master, and no one dared to offend him. The kind of trash that could not cultivate, and would be kicked by all kinds of brainless servants was very rare in the Falling Star continent. Therefore, when the guard reported, not only did he call him young Master Ziyang, his tone was also respectful. "What?" Long Patian stood up and said, "That little bastard is back?" As a father, he definitely doted on his child. However, with so many elders present, he could only pretend to be angry and say, "Good, capture him and punish him according to the family law." Black lines immediately appeared on the elders' foreheads. If our Long family's family law was to be beaten, if this were to spread, we would definitely be laughed at. "Patriarch," the guard said, "young Master Ziyang brought back quite a few people. They have already entered the inner courtyard." He brought a lot of people. Long Patian was startled and walked out of the hall. The few elders of the Long family hurriedly followed, thinking unhappily, did this brat forget that not just anyone can enter the Long family? The Long family was one of the 3 great families in Longyang City. In terms of strength, compared to the Sacred Spring Sect and the Tsongshan Sect, they were definitely stronger. Ordinary people could not casually enter this kind of family. Even if the patriarchs of small and medium-sized families came to visit, they would have to politely wait for the notification. If they were allowed to enter, they could only sigh and leave. Long Ziyang bringing people in without permission was a big problem. Fortunately, he had a father who was the patriarch of the family to protect him. Otherwise, he would not only be punished by the family law, he would also be punished severely. Inner courtyard. Jun Changxiao led the disciples and stood on the martial arts practice field. This Long family is really impressive. Su Xiaoma stood at the back, looking around with his eyes wide open. He was deeply shocked by the magnificent buildings around him. Tianqi and Li Fei also looked like Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden. Lu Qianqian and Yi Xingqian were both people who had seen the world. One continued to be cold while the other continued to be arrogant. Li Qingyang was also looking and memorizing some of the good architectural styles. He secretly thought that he could use it as a reference for the next time, when the sect was remodeling. Look at this awareness. It would be a waste of talent if he wasn't given the position of head of internal affairs. "Look at you guys," Jun Changxiao said. "Straighten your backs for this seat." Yes. Su Xiaoma and the others held their heads high and their chests out. With their hands behind their backs, they stood as straight as a pole. "Sect leader," Long Ziyang said. "I'll go inform them." "Sect leader." The guards who followed him and were all dumbfounded. This young man who looked like he was only 18 or 19 years old was the sect leader of a sect. Also, the young master had been away from home for such a long time. Had he entered a sect? Cough cough. At this moment, Patriarch Long walked out of the hall with the elders. When he saw his son, he scolded him to his face. "You bastard, where have you been all this time?" The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. "Isn't this my iron bone?" Plop. When Long Ziyang saw Long Patian, his legs went soft, and he immediately knelt on the ground. When he was young, he was mischievous, and would often be punished by the patriarch. As he grew older, not only did he grow taller, his butt was also beaten until it was round and perky. Don't believe it? If he lifted the back of his school uniform, he would definitely be able to see Long Ziyang's perky butt. Because his upbringing was too strict, Long Ziyang developed a strong fear of his father. Especially when he was angry, he would definitely be so scared that his legs would not listen to him. Jun Changxiao's face darkened. "Ziyang, this seat once said, 'A man's knees do not kneel to the heavens or the earth, but only to the parents who gave birth to you and raised you.' He wanted his disciples to have backbone and integrity. Even if the other party was the head of the family, even if he was a junior, he must not kneel. Sect leader. Long Xiang lowered his voice and said, He is my father. Father is not. Father? Jun Changxiao's serious face instantly disappeared. He pretended to look at the spectacular building, and said, Then continue to kneel. This change in attitude was too quick. Xiang. Long Patian looked at Jun Changxiao, Li Qingyang and the others, and said with a gloomy face, It's one thing to run away from home, but why did you bring so many people back? What kind of place do you think the Long family is? Father, Long Xiang anxiously said. He is. Just as he was about to speak, a Long family elder behind him coldly shouted, How can this kind of person step into my Long family? Quickly scram. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Were all the big families so powerful? Sorry. Jun Changxiao spread out his hands and said, I have always walked. I don't know how to roll. Why don't you personally demonstrate? Pucci. Lu Wanshur covered her mouth and laughed. The sect leader's words were so funny. The Long family elder glared at him and said, Brat, are you provoking this old man? No. Jun Changxiao raised both of his hands, extended his middle finger, and said with a face full of disdain, This is called provocation. Indeed, giving the middle finger to others was definitely a provocation. If this was on Earth, especially to foreigners who were very sensitive to the middle finger, they would definitely fight. Although the falling star continent did not have such an insulting gesture like giving the middle finger, the Long family elder could tell from Jun Changxiao's expression that he was humiliating him. In front of his own house, he dared to be so arrogant. This was unbearable. Hoo-hoo. The Long family elder's sleeves fluttered without any wind, and the cultivation of the sixth stage Wuzong instantly erupted. A gurgling stream of brilliant spirit energy spread out, and that old face was filled with anger. Shua! Shua! Xiao Ziji immediately stood in front of the sect leader and communicated with the iron shield in the space ring, allowing it to be taken out at any time. Iron Bone was the meat shield, and it was his responsibility to protect the sect leader from harm at all times. Li Qingyang, Li Fei, and Tianqi also came over. Lu Qianqian raised her eyebrows, and her white and cold jade-like hand was already quietly placed on the hilt of her sword. On the other hand, Yi Xingchen did not move at all. He looked at the Long family elder who had unleashed his cultivation and said disdainfully, Vulgar person. Long Xiang panicked. He hurriedly said, Father, this is Xiang. Jun Changxiao interrupted. This should be the Long family's special way of treating guests. Since I'm here, I naturally have to experience it. After saying that, he waved his hand and said, Leave. Shua. Xiao Ziji, Li Qingyang and the others left. Arrogant junior. You dare to behave atrociously in my Long family. I'm afraid you've eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. The Long family elder shouted coldly, and the cultivation around him became more and more powerful. Long Xiang's mouth twitched. My second elder. The sect leader has completely defeated a rank 2 martial king. If you think you're stronger than a martial king, then continue your show. Long Xiao. Wait a moment. The second elder's hands moved, and just as he was about to use the Long family's martial skill, Long Patian raised his hand to stop him. You call yourself this lord? Could it be that you're someone with status? Not high. Jun Changxiao said. Sect leader. Sect leader? The Long family elders immediately sneered. This young man looked to be only 18 or 19 years old, and he was the leader of a sect? This bragging was quite good. Or was it because the Iron Bone sect leader was young and famous? So many youths who hadn't even grown hair all imitated him, and casually pulled a few people to form a sect? Long Patian said, What sect? He understood his son, and he wouldn't bring strangers in for no reason. These youths might not be simple, or they might be brought in to find a good job in the family. My son has finally grown up. After going out for a trip, he even brought back a few youths with a good aura to add to the family. Iron Bone Zheng sect. Jun Changxiao's voice was very calm, but when Long Patian and the Long family elders heard this, they were all dumbstruck. P.S. Ever since the book was published, the weekly recommendation votes have not exceeded 10,000. This week, there is only a little more than a day left, and there are already more than 8,000 votes. Whether or not it can exceed 10,000 depends on everyone. Chapter 391. What were Long Patian and the Long family elders talking about in the hall just now? That's right. They were talking about Iron Bone. They were thinking of finding a few ordinary direct descendants to join this sect, and see if they could be nurtured into talents. Now the young man standing in the martial arts practice field actually said that he was the sect leader of Ironbone clan. They were a little caught off guard, and a little fucked up. Long Patian said in disbelief, "You are Jun Changshao." Had the Long family heard of his name? Jun Changshao suddenly felt a little smug, but he still said seriously, "I am Jun Changshao." This was a very beautiful way of saying things. However, what he got in return was a wave of suspicion and doubt from the Long family elders. The news said that the sect leader of Ironbone was young, but Longyang City was at least 2,000 miles away from Qingyang City. Why would he come here? Xiang. Long Patian looked at Long Xiang and said in a deep voice, "Is that so?" He was not sure, so he could only ask his son. After all, he was the one who brought him here. "Father, it's like this," Long Xiang said truthfully. "Humph." The second elder, who had forcefully held back his move and almost suffered internal injuries, pulled a long face and said, "Who knows if he's just an imposter? In my opinion." The third elder said, Xiang was worried that he would run away from home and be punished when he returned, so he found an outsider to impersonate him. It wasn't that they were stupid. It was that Long Xiang suddenly brought back the sect leader of Ironbone, who had been in the limelight recently. This was really unrealistic. "Xiang," an elder joked, "why did you only bring back a county sect leader? Why didn't you bring back the Night Emperor, who died thousands of years ago, for us to take a look?" Everyone laughed heartily at once. Yi Xingchen was stunned. He didn't expect that this small family would have heard of his emperor title. Of course, bringing back the Night Emperor was just to tease him. In fact, Long Xiang had really pulled Night Emperor over. But it wasn't his original body, but his reborn body. Long Patian was also suspicious. After all, his son had run away from home for so long. It was quite possible that he was worried about being punished. Jun Changshao felt depressed. In the past, other people thought that he didn't look like a sect leader. Now they didn't think that he was the Ironbone sect leader. Could this be any worse? Yes. Depends on my mood. Sect Master Jun, is it? Long Patian cupped his hands and said, "Seeing is believing. Please, could you be more sincere? The expression on your face shows that you don't believe that I'm Ironbone's sect leader at all." "Patriarch," the second elder said, "whether or not this boy is the Ironbone sect leader, won't we know if I test him?" This, Long Patian was very conflicted. "Sect Master Jun, what do you think?" "It doesn't matter." Jun Changshao shrugged. He knew that this test was actually just a fight. Huff huff. The second elder's sleeves bulged again, and pure elemental energy burst out. High rank 6 Wuzong. The system analyzed. Strength is around 270,000 Jin. Only high rank? Only 270,000? Jun Changshao didn't take it to heart. After all, he was a high rank 2 Wuzong, and his strength was close to 350,000 Jin. "Sect Master." At this moment Long Xiang transmitted his voice. "Please give me face and don't hit him too hard." The memory of instantly killing a rank 2 martial king on the life and death platform was still fresh in his mind. He worshipped him very much. He was afraid that the sect master would accidentally kill the second elder. It was the second elder's suggestion to take care of the family business. He had always been against him. Long Xiang naturally didn't ask the sect master for mercy because he cared about him. He was mainly worried that the family and the sect would become enemies. "Yes," Jun Changshao said. "I'll give you face and beat him up lightly." Long Xiang probably didn't know that the reason why he could instantly kill a rank 2 martial king was because of the strength amplification talisman. Now that he had nothing, it was impossible to kill the second elder with 1 or 2 punches. "Sect Master Jun," the second elder said coldly, Are you ready? Jun Changshao raised his other hand and said with a smile, Please enlighten me. Huff huff. The second elder's hands moved in the air, and powerful spiritual energy started to swirl like water. Dragon roaring in the 9 heavens. He suddenly pushed his palms forward, and the circular spiritual energy ball formed an illusory dragon. It dragged its long body and roared as it charged forward. Huff huff. The wind howled, and the force was unrestrained. The dragon formed by the martial skill was not only powerful, it was also very lifelike. It was 1,000 times better than the special effects in the local dramas. Jun Changshao stood in the martial arts arena. His black hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a calm and handsome face that was so charming that it could kill a person to death. However, his eyes were closed. Seeing this, the Long family's elders sneered. This guy definitely knew that he couldn't dodge, so he chose to give up. As long as he hit, he definitely wouldn't be the Ironbone Sect master. Everyone had heard of Jun Changzhao's matter. Not only did he instantly kill a rank 2 martial king at the life and death stage at the foot of the mountain, he also defeated the patriarch at the Sacred Spring Sect. The strength of the second elder's attack was around 300,000 jin. If he couldn't withstand it, he would definitely be a fake brat. There was a price to pay for cooperating with that brat Xiang. It was strange. Facing the roaring dragon, Li Qingyang and the others clearly saw that Jun Changshao's eyes were closed, but they weren't worried at all. This level of strength was very strong for them, but to injure the sect master was a bit wishful thinking. Fire, the essence of bewilderment. Propriety by nature. A good person asks what's on his mind. Bowing down to him with propriety, everyone can comply. As the dragon attacked, Jun Changshao, who was standing proudly, silently chanted the incantation in his heart. The exquisite fire in his dantian became restless, instantly forming a net of fire that enveloped his spirit core and many other cyclones. Swoosh! Suddenly Jun Changshao opened his eyes. 2 blazing flames flickered in his pupils. Whoosh whoosh! In an instant, boundless flames spread around his body. His black hair and eyebrows seemed to have turned red under the flames. Lu Qianqian was stunned. The strength of the flames released by the sect master made her, an ice martial cultivator, feel uneasy. She wasn't the only one. Yi Xingchen was also shocked. As for Long Patian and the others, they were a bit far away. When they felt the heat wave coming, Jun Changshao had already raised his hand and chopped down. Red sky raging flame cut. Whoosh whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the rising flames instantly gathered together and whizzed in the direction of the falling palm. In the process of galloping, it evolved into a flaming palm in the shape of a knife. Hiss hiss hiss, the flames and the air collided violently, producing crackling sounds. Not good. The second elder's face suddenly changed. He wanted to withdraw his move, but it was too late. Boom. The blazing flame palm domineeringly blasted on the roaring dragon, directly scattering the gathered spiritual energy and evaporating it in an instant. Thump thump thump. The second elder, who was forced to retreat until he reached the door of the hall. His arms grabbed the edge of the door, and his 10 fingers sank into the door frame. Only then did he stabilize his body with difficulty. Wah! His meridians were disordered, and blood spurted out. One word: miserable. Swoosh! Jun Changshao waved his sleeve, and the flame palm that filled the area between the hall and the martial arts field dissipated instantly, turning into wisps of fire attribute that returned to the main body. From the moment he made the move to everyone's thoughts, to the moment the second elder vomited blood. It seemed to take a long time, but it actually happened in a flash. Long Patian was dumbfounded. The elders of the Long family were also dumbfounded. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others standing behind Sect Master Jun also widened their eyes. Obviously, even they didn't expect the Sect Master to suddenly use such a powerful move. Yi Xingchen and Lu Qianqian said firmly in their hearts, "This is definitely a divine martial art technique." P.S. A real man has another wave of orgasms after the climax. That's all for today. If it's midnight, it should be one update. I'll continue to write tomorrow. Also, thank you for the reader's tips. Finally, please recommend me, please vote. Chapter 392. A divine rank martial skill, like the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash, inherited the advantages of the system and was very easy to comprehend. What about the Lingjian divine art? This kind of sword skill was like a heavenly book to a martial cultivator. However, for a sword cultivator with the way of the sword, it was also very easy to comprehend the first move. Not to mention, as a fire attribute martial cultivator, Jun Changshao was able to cultivate the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash, with twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, when facing the second elder's dragon roar of the 9 heavens, he directly used it. Power. Jun Changshao thought. It's not very strong. The Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash that he displayed, in terms of strength, was only around 400,000 kilograms. According to the introduction, this could be used as a trump card. The system was speechless. The host has only comprehended a little, so its power is naturally not strong. That's true. From the time he obtained the Scarlet Sky Raging Flame Slash to the time he used it, it had only been a day or two. Moreover, the system continued. The power of this move also depends on the accumulation of power. For the host to condense flames and then use it, it is reasonable that the power is weak. Understood. Jun Changshao cupped his hands in a carefree manner and said, "Everyone, do you believe me now?" Long Patian and the Long family elder regained their senses and looked at the young man in the martial arts arena. Their eyes were still filled with shock and disbelief. With just one move, he was able to force the second elder to retreat and vomit blood. This child's strength was definitely strong. In the southwest Yangzhou, such a young martial cultivator with such a high cultivation, in their knowledge, there was only the Ironbone Sect leader, who had recently risen to power. If you still don't believe me, Jun Changshao said, I can take out the Sect seal to prove my identity. Sect leader Jun. Long Patian cupped his hands and said, Please forgive me for not welcoming you when you visit my Long family. This was very sincere. The Long family patriarch no longer cared if the other party was the Ironbone Sect leader or not. Just by having such a strong cultivation, he definitely had a great background. Please take a seat. Long Patian turned to the side and invited him in. The elders of the Long family all made way, their faces filled with respect. Although the Ironbone Sect was only a 7th-rate sect, what they had done during this period of time, they were not inferior to a 4th-rate sect at all. In the hall, Long Patian sat at the head of the table and glanced at the disciples standing behind Jun Changshao. Sect Master Jun, are these your disciples? Not bad, Jun Changshao said. The Long family's elder carefully sized them up and thought to himself, as expected, they are not ordinary people. Before they knew their identities, they had thought that Li Qingyang and the others were special. Now that they knew that they were Ironbone disciples, they looked at them in a different light. Wait a minute. Why did Long Xiang bring Ironbone Sect leader here? Long Patian also realized this, and he thought more than they did. He hurriedly asked, Sect Master Jun, could it be that my son has joined your sect? He had deduced this from the way Long Xiang addressed him as sect leader. Under normal circumstances, when an outsider addressed a person as the leader of a sect, they would use their surname. If they didn't, it meant that they were from the same sect. Not bad, Jun Changshao said. Recently, Xiang has been cultivating in this secluded corner of mine. Long Potion's face immediately turned red. Sect Master Jun, he clasped his hands and said apologetically, I didn't mean to say that just now. Please don't take it to heart. Long Xiang, who was sitting at the end of the table, was stunned when he saw his father being so polite. He clearly remembered that even if the patriarch of a 5th-rate sect came to visit, his father would still be very dignified. Why did it seem like he was a different person now? Because the Ironbone Sect had Wu Huang. This kind of expert directly raised the status of a 7th-rate sect by many levels. Even the Long family's patriarch didn't dare to slight him. If a 9th-rate sect had a martial emperor, they would definitely come from all directions to pay their respects. If I take it to heart, Jun Changshao paused for a moment, then smiled at the second elder and said, This elder won't just vomit blood. This pretentious act was round and smooth, full and moist. The second elder, who was recuperating, felt a chill down his spine when he heard this. This child instantly killed a rank 2 martial king on the life and death stage. If he wanted to kill him just now, he would probably be a corpse now. Long Patian smiled awkwardly and said, "It's my son's fortune to be able to enter your sect." Although he said that, he didn't think so in his heart. There was no denying it. The Ironbone sect was in the limelight recently and had great potential. However, it was still a 7th-rate sect. His son had a high-quality spiritual root, so it was worth it to join the Ironbone sect. Xiang usually works very hard, and his growth is also very fast. He has already been promoted to an inner disciple, Jun Changxiao said. Long Patian smiled and said, "Thank you for your concern, Sect Master Jun." In his opinion, it was very normal for his son to become an inner disciple. However, the Long family's patriarch probably didn't know that Long Xiang's cultivation was high before he entered the sect. If he entered the sect a bit later, it would be very difficult to compete for an inner disciple spot in the sect competition. In short, the Ironbone sect had all sorts of resources. As long as the spiritual root wasn't too low and started early, it might not be weaker than a high-quality spiritual root. And this was also what Jun Changxiao was pursuing. "I don't need you to have a high aptitude to join the sect. I only need you to work hard enough to cultivate." Sect Master Jun Long Patian asked, "Why have you come this time?" "I heard that the Long family is about to hold a family competition. Ziyang wants to participate, so I came uninvited," Jun Changxiao said. "So that's how it is." Long Patian understood and was overjoyed in his heart. The disciples of the Ironbone sect, under Sect Master Jun's guidance, their strength has increased extremely quickly. "My son should be able to perform well this time." As a father, he was very strict. But he also hated iron for not becoming steel. If his son became stronger in the Ironbone sect, he would naturally be very gratified. The few elders of the Long family also understood. Long Xiang left home to join the Ironbone sect to learn from his master. Now that he had returned, he wanted to show off his skills in the family competition. That's right. This was the purpose of Long Xiang's return home. He wasn't trying to show off, he was trying to tell the Long family, "Even if I, Long Xiang, am unable to cultivate the family's martial arts, I will still be stronger than you all when I return from cultivation this time. I will still be able to oppress you all." Young people were unyielding and could not tolerate being looked down upon by their own clansmen, so they had to prove themselves. "I can do it, I can do it. P.S. I'll update at midnight and continue during the day. On the last day of the weekend, I'll leave it to everyone to see if the recommendation votes can break through 10,000. Chapter 393. Have you heard? Long Xiang, who ran away from home, is back. What? That fellow is back? Did the patriarch spank his butt? He didn't receive any punishment. That can't be, right? He abandoned the family business and disappeared for almost a year. He didn't receive any punishment? In the inner courtyard, many of the Long clan's direct descendants were discussing. From their expressions and words, it wasn't hard to tell that they wanted to see Long Xiang embarrass himself. Although he was the son of the patriarch, he wasn't welcomed by many of his cousins because he couldn't practice the Long clan's martial arts. Furthermore, he was the son of the patriarch. Otherwise, Long Xiang's treatment in the Long clan would be similar to that of the fallen genius Xiao Ziji. "I heard that Xiang brought the Ironbone sect master over." The patriarch and the elders were very enthusiastic. They didn't even think of punishing him. "Ironbone? Isn't that the sect that has been making a lot of noise in the city recently? I heard that the Ironbone sect master is around the same age as us. But he was able to defeat Wuzong at the peak, and even a rank 2 martial king. Is he that powerful?" You definitely didn't expect that Xiang has already joined the Ironbone. He came back to participate in the clan tournament. A trash who can't even learn the most basic martial arts of the Long clan dares to participate in the clan tournament? Who gave him such courage? I also heard that many of the Ironbone's disciples came. The patriarch has arranged for them to stay in a small courtyard in the west courtyard. I heard that the disciples of this sect have fought with the disciples of the Sacred Spring sect for over 70 rounds. They haven't lost a single round. They are very powerful. Let's go and take a look. In front of the courtyard in the west courtyard, some of the Long clan's disciples were looking inside, while others were blocking the entrance. Unfortunately, after looking for a long time, they didn't see anyone coming out of the room. This made them puzzled. Was there anyone living inside? There was someone living inside. The one living inside was Jun Changshao and a group of disciples. They were cultivating in their own rooms. Unlike the direct descendants of the Long clan, the clan tournament was about to begin, but they still had the leisure to watch the show. Jun Changshao brought his disciples along with Long Xiang. Firstly, he wanted to help him avoid punishment. Secondly, he hoped to win first place and make Ironbone famous. This was his home ground. Therefore, he had Li Qingyang and the others cultivate in their rooms, instead of showing off in the Long family, to prevent them from stealing the limelight. Although Su Xiaoma and Li Fei really wanted to go out and have fun in Longyang City, they could only cultivate in peace in their rooms. As for Lu Wanshi, because she was not bound by cultivation, she often brought Yao Minjing out to play. When she came back, she would also buy a lot of strange gadgets. 3 days later, on the eve of the clan's tournament, Long Xiang found Jun Changshao and said with a bitter face, "Sect Master, because I came back to participate in the intersect tournament, many of my cousins who were in closed-door cultivation came out and applied to participate in the clan tournament. Scared? I'm not afraid, I'm just a little nervous." Long Xiang's talent was not bad, but not only did his cousins have high-grade spirit roots, they were also extremely talented in comprehending the family's martial arts. Their strength was much stronger than his. For example, his third cousin had already broken through to the 6th grade martial master before he left home, and had grasped many of the Long family's martial techniques. There was also his eldest and second cousins, who had entered the 7th grade martial master early on. The former even had a top-grade spirit root, and could be said to be the strongest direct descendant of the Long family's new generation. Speaking of which, the age difference between Long Xiang and his cousins was only 2 or 3 years. Why was there such a huge difference in their realms? It was very simple. They cultivated the Long family's unique mental cultivation method, the Dragon Breath art. Its quality had already reached the high level of the top grade, and it was said that it was comparable to the holy rank. The reason why the Long family was able to establish themselves in Longyang City and had the strength comparable to a 4th or 5th-rate sect was all because of the Dragon Breath, this high-level mental cultivation method. In the Falling Star continent, there were countless forces that relied on mental cultivation methods to establish sections. The most famous one was Taishian Shengzong, who used the remnant of Taishuan's ice heart art to forcefully create a first-rate sect. The Long family's mental cultivation method was very strong, and the direct descendants' cultivation speed was very fast. Long Xiang's talent was not bad, but he could not cultivate any of the family's martial techniques, so he could only choose the universal mental cultivation method. It was normal for him to be left far behind by his cousins. It was because he knew that the family's martial techniques were very strong that he was nervous when the competition was about to start. He was afraid that he would not be able to win against his cousin and not be able to make a name for the Iron Bone. "I have a heart-calming liquid here. You won't be nervous after drinking it." Jun Changshao threw a small bottle over. Long Xiang was a little confused. Out of absolute trust in the sect leader, he opened the bottle and drank it all. The taste was a little bitter and a little mellow of malt. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, a strong aura burst out of Long Xiang's body. In just a moment, his perception of the heaven and earth attribute was also instantly strengthened. His realm had also entered the 5th grade martial master level from the 4th grade. That's right. He had drunk the top grade aptitude modification liquid. Sect leader. Feeling the changes in his body and the increase in his realm, Long Xiang's eyes immediately widened, and he said, What's going on?" Jun Changshao said, "Are you still nervous?" "Ka." Long Xiang clenched his fists, and an even stronger power gathered in his meridians. His gaze was burning as he said, I'm not nervous at all. I even want to dance. Let's go learn how to meow and meow together. Early the next morning, a dynamic and rhythmic tune resounded throughout the Long family's inner courtyard. In the courtyard, Lu Wanshi and Yao Minjing stood in front, learning how to meow and meow. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others stood behind to dance. Although they were not in the sect, they could not miss out on morning exercises every day. What's that sound? The direct descendants of the Long family, who had woken up early, heard the sound and came over. Passing through the open courtyard door, they were all dumbfounded when they saw the iron-boned disciples doing strange actions. How embarrassing! A man is still pouting. If this were to be seen by outsiders, my Long family's face would definitely be lost by that guy. The direct descendants of the Long family all despised him. If it was in the past, being watched by so many people, especially those of the same clan, Long Xiang would definitely be very embarrassed. But now he was completely immersed in dancing. This kind of dancing morning exercise can make one feel good. After you experience it for yourself, you will be unable to extricate yourself from it like me. The song ended. Jun Changshao turned off the magically modified sound system and said, "Let's go." Shua. With a wave of his sleeve, he walked forward. The disciples followed behind and arrived at the outer courtyard under the gazes of the direct descendants of the Long family. Today was the day of the Long family's great competition. Although the sky had just brightened, many direct descendants had already gathered in the martial arts arena. Sect leader Jun walked over with his disciples, immediately attracting their attention. The ones following behind should all be iron-boned disciples. Why are there 6 or 7-year-old children? It doesn't look like much. It's really unbelievable to win more than 70 matches against the Sacred Spring Sect in a row. The arrival of Jun Changshao and his disciples caused a heated discussion among the direct descendants of the Long family. Little brother Ziyang. At this moment, an extraordinary-looking young man smiled and greeted him as he walked over. Long Xiang frowned slightly but still called out, "Second cousin." Second cousin Long Zishan walked in front of him and said in a low voice, "Joining the Iron Bone and participating in the great competition, you're quite promising now. However," he grinned and said, "when the great competition starts later, if you meet me, don't run around the martial arts arena with your head in your hands like last time." Long Xiang's face immediately turned ugly. Su Xiaoma, who was at the side, could tell from Long Zishan's smile that he was mocking his junior brother. He almost couldn't help but kick him. Calm down, calm down. The sect leader had said that today was the stage for his junior brother's performance, so he couldn't steal the limelight. P.S. When I woke up, I had almost 12,000 recommendation votes. Thank you everyone. Continue to ask for recommendation votes, monthly votes. I also entered battle mode and sent it out. Chapter 394. The Long family's clan competition was similar to the Ironbone competition. It was also divided into levels, and those with similar strength would fight together. However, there was another way to declare war on someone. Last year, before Long Xiang ran away from home, there was a clan competition, and he was unfortunately challenged by many of his cousins. Without exception, all of them were defeated. In terms of strength, he was definitely stronger than his cousin who started cultivating martial arts later. However, he did not have any good martial skills, and was beaten to a sorry state. Especially after being challenged by his second cousin, he ran away with his head in his hands, almost making Long Potion's nose crooked from anger. After it ended, he was spanked again. In the Falling Star continent, the strength of a martial artist was not only dependent on his own strength, but also on external objects. For example, martial skills, weapons, and treasures. If a 5th or 6th level meridian opening cultivator cultivated a higher level martial skill, or had a good weapon, he would definitely be able to defeat a 11th or 12th level meridian opening cultivator. The most typical example was Jun Changshao. He had just transmigrated and participated in the recruitment of the 100 sects. Relying on the low-grade cold-edge sword, he cut off an arm of the Spirit Spring Sect's elder. You said he was stronger than Wei Yinu? In terms of realm alone, the difference was too great. To be able to injure the other party was due to the weapon. Because Long Xiang did not have a suitable martial skill, he could not even beat his younger cousin, who cultivated the family's martial arts. Therefore, he could only run away from home and learn from his master. Second cousin, he said proudly. I am no longer the me from a year ago. This cousin was just like his name. In front of the Long Xiang, he was like an insurmountable mountain. Now, it was very ordinary. Is that so? Long Zishan smiled, turned around and left a message. I hope that when the clan competition starts, it will be an eye-opener for me. It's more than an eye-opener. Long Xiang clenched his fists and said in his heart, I will make it unforgettable for you for the rest of your life. The iron bone had become the focus of the Long family's direct descendants, and Long Xiang had also become their topic of discussion. Many of the direct descendants who had abused him in the past naturally didn't think that he would be very strong after returning this time. In fact, if they were more well-informed, they would know that Long Xiang had also participated in the battle at the Sacred Spring Sect and had defeated an inner disciple cleanly. Without little brother Xiang around, we didn't have much fun. Now that we're back, we must have some fun. I wonder what level the patriarch will place him in. Will he be in the ordinary group? If that's the case, we can only wait until it's over and declare war on him. While the direct descendants of the Long family were discussing, they didn't forget to look at Long Xiang with a mocking smile. Junior brother, Su Xiaoma said in a low voice, you're really miserable. Long Xiang's eyes flickered with anger as he said, when it starts, I'll make sure none of them can laugh. A short while later, Long Patian walked out of the hall, then cupped his hands towards Jun Changshao and arranged a good viewing area. Junior brother, do your best. Junior brother, you are the strongest among the direct descendants of the Long family. Junior brother, don't disappoint us. When they were heading towards the spectator area, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Su Xiaoma and the others all cheered for him. However, the words you are the strongest among the direct descendants of the Long family immediately attracted a wave of sighs and disdain from the direct descendants of the Long family. Because the large competition was held every year, the direct descendants all knew the rules. So Long Patian did not waste any time and directly announced the division of the direct descendants participating in the large competition. There were a total of 3 groups: the strongest group, the middle group, and the ordinary group. Long Zai the middle group, Long Ziming the ordinary group, Long Zishan the strongest group, Long Xiang the strongest group. Ga! The entire martial arts arena immediately fell silent, and the direct descendants of the Long family all had looks of disbelief. Did I hear wrongly? Long Xiang, that guy, entered the strongest group? What a joke! That guy joined the ordinary group last year, and now he directly applied for the strongest group. Was his brain kicked by a donkey? Or was it that after running away from home for a year, his skin itched so badly that he had to find his cousin to ruthlessly beat him up? The Long family's elders were also astonished. The Ironbone sect leader was very strong in teaching disciples. However, that brat was only at the 10th stage of the Meridian Opening Realm before he left home. How strong could he be in a short year? Long Xiang straightened his back. He was the one who had applied to enter the strongest group from his father. Since he was here, he would fight the strongest direct descendant of the Long family. Only then would he be able to prove his strength. Cousins. Long Xiang's eyes flashed with fighting spirit and said, tremble in fear. After the groups were divided, the large competition began. The first to enter was the ordinary group. The direct descendants of the Long family were all at the channel opening realm, so it was very boring to fight. Li Qingyang and the others sat on the chairs, so bored that they almost fell asleep. On the other hand, Jun Changshao was watching with relish. He was not watching the fights, but the strength of the direct descendants of the Long family. To be honest, as expected of a family comparable to a 4th or 5th-rate sect, everyone who went up was at the 10th stage of the Meridian Opening Realm, and their understanding of martial techniques was not bad. This is the foundation, Jun Changshao thought to himself. After 2 hours of fighting, a 12th stage meridian opening realm disciple of the Long family, successfully won the championship of the ordinary group. Next was the competition of the intermediate group. The direct descendants of the Long family were all at the martial disciple level, and there were even many peak-level martial disciples. TSK Tisk. Jun Chongshao sighed. A big family is a big family. The strength of the intermediate group was higher, and the fights were quite exciting, so Li Qingyang and the others were also interested in watching. Occasionally, they would also compare the direct descendants of the Long family with some of their fellow disciples. In the end, the conclusion was that if many outer sect disciples participated, they would be able to beat the direct descendants of the Long family to the ground. After more than an hour, the intermediate group ended, and a 9th stage martial disciple won first place. Next, it was the finale of the competition between the strongest groups. To be able to enter this level, the weakest of the direct descendants of the Long family was at least a martial master. Long Ziang Long Zisong. Long Patian announced the first battle of the strongest group. Li Qingyang and the others immediately became spirited, but when they saw the direct descendant called Long Zisong go up the stage first, and the strongest aura he emitted was only a 2nd or 3rd stage martial master, they lost interest. Damn it! Can't you find a decent opponent for your junior brother? The direct descendants of the Long family all sneered. It would be very interesting to see Long Ziang get beaten up in the first battle of the strongest group. Little brother Ziang. Long Zisong laughed. You didn't sign up for the ordinary group, and came to the strongest group to join in the fun. Do you want to be beaten up by me like last year? Long Ziang, who walked up the stage, did not say a word. Begin! An elder of the Long family shouted. Shua! Long Zisong used the Long family's martial art, dragon swimming steps, and circled around. However, in the process of moving, a palm cut through the void and fiercely swung over. Pi crisp sound was heard. They only saw how Long Zisong flew out in a fancy way, and then rotated 160 degrees in the air, and fell fiercely outside the martial arts practice field. A bright red palm print on his face. Good. Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and Tian Qi stood up and applauded. The direct descendants of the Long family, who originally wanted to see how Long Ziang would be beaten up by their cousin, were all dumbfounded. When they came back to their senses, they saw that the guy had already walked down the stage. The elder who just shouted the start of the battle twitched the corner of his mouth. It seemed that it had only been a few seconds, and the battle was over? Heh. Long Zishan crossed his arms and looked at Long Ziang, who was walking down the stage. He smiled with interest. My cousin has really grown a lot after returning this time. Chapter 395. Long Ziang's swift and decisive defeat of Long Zisong caused the direct descendants of the Long family to be dumbfounded. Of course, a powerful direct descendant like Long Zishan did not take it to heart. After all, if he were the one on stage, he could also instantly defeat a rank 2 or 3 martial master. It was undeniable. Long Ziang, who had only left for a year, was able to achieve this level. He had grown a lot. Long Potion's face was expressionless, but his heart was blooming with joy. A year ago, his son was tortured by a direct descendant of a level 7 or 8 meridian opening realm in the grand competition. In a short period of time, he was able to torture a beginner-level martial master. This growth speed was earth-shattering. Don't worry, Patriarch Long's happiness was yet to come, because as the strongest group's competition continued, as Long Ziang went on stage one after another, regardless of whether his opponent was at rank 3 or rank 4, they were all sent flying. He was so strong that it was completely unreasonable. After cultivating in the sect for so long, he was already very strong. Then he took the aptitude modification liquid and raised his spirit root to the highest grade. Don't we know if he's strong or not? Plop. In the 4th match, a rank 5 martial master of the Long family's direct descendant fell to the ground outside the martial arts practice field. The Long family's direct descendant was so shocked that he couldn't recover for a long time. Another instant kill. This guy was too strong. Long Zishan, who was still laughing at first, had a serious expression. Although his cousin who was beaten down was weak, his spirit root aptitude was not weak at all. Even if it was him, he might not be able to defeat him cleanly. Sigh. Long Xiang, who was standing on the stage, shook his head and said, "There's not a single one who can fight." Jun Changshao was full of smiles. His disciple was showing off on stage. As the sect leader, he would definitely have face. The Long family's direct descendants' expressions were uglier than the other. The guy who was bullied by them back then suddenly became so awesome. They really couldn't accept it. Long Patian was having a great time. His son had fought 4 matches, from rank 2 all the way to rank 5. All of them were ended quickly. This could only mean that his strength was very strong. Long Patian looked at Jun Changshao, his eyes filled with even more admiration. In just a year's time, his son had become so valiant. This sect leader must have real ability. The elders of the Long family began to ponder. Long Xiang, who seemed to be a very ordinary direct descendant of the family, had been trained to be so valiant by him. If he let the outstanding direct descendant go, wouldn't that be like going to heaven? It was hard to say whether he would ascend to heaven or not. However, based on how Long Xiang had been bullied and ridiculed by the direct descendants of the Long family, it was unlikely that he would have any chance of joining the Ironbone Society. The battle between the strongest groups was still ongoing, but the atmosphere had changed. In the beginning, many direct descendants of the Long family hoped to be matched with Long Xiang, and then ruthlessly trample on him. Now they were secretly praying that they wouldn't meet this guy. Some things were destined by the heavens, and it was hard to avoid them. In the round of 16, the number plate that Long Zishan drew just happened to match Long Xiang, so the two of them would compete for a spot in the top 8. Here comes the show. Su Xiaoma grinned. Before the large competition began, Long Zishan had ridiculed his junior brother. He stood at the side and wanted to kick him. Now that he had met him so early, it was not a bad thing. Li Qingyang said, "This person is at least an 8th stage martial master. Junior brother Long shouldn't win too easily." Jun Changshao leaned against the back of his chair, crossed his arms, and looked at Long Xiang who was on the stage, and sent a sound transmission. "Xiang, only this battle can prove yourself." Ta. Long Xiang strode onto the stage and said, "Sect leader, this disciple will use my strength to tell everyone in the Long family, that this stage belongs to me, Long Xiang, the Iron Bone clan." His spine was straight, revealing the aura of an iron bone. When the evil sects attacked, Long Xiang did not fight, because his strength was far inferior to Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others. However, seeing his senior brother defeat his opponents time and time again, he was deeply moved below the stage. Although the clan's grand competition represented him, behind him was the sect leader and the senior brother, who defended the sect's honor. In this battle, no matter what, he could not lose. Hoo-hoo! In an instant, Long Xiang's body erupted with a powerful aura, and his eyes flickered with a strong fighting spirit. Sect leader, senior brother, senior sister. He clenched his fists tightly and said loudly with the sound transmission technique, "Today I, Long Xiang, will continue my undefeated record on the life and death arena." Jun Changshao was speechless. Why did he have to be so hot-blooded to bully a group of little martial masters? Long Zishan, who had just walked onto the stage, frowned and thought to himself, "Just how strong is this brat?" From the initial ridicule to the current caution, it was enough to show that this cousin of his was no longer the same as before. "Begin!" The Long family elder shouted again. Shua. Long Zishan stepped on the dragon swimming steps, and was the first to attack. As an 8th stage martial master, he was clearly much stronger than Long Zisong in terms of using his family's movement technique. With a single step, his afterimage was almost dragged out. Shua. Just as Long Zishan moved, Long Xiang also rushed over with the cloud steps. In terms of speed, it was obvious that he was faster. The Long family's dragon swimming steps, high-grade mid-rank. Was it high? High. However, in front of Ironbone's cloud steps, it was still a bit weaker. Comparing speed, comparing who is faster, you really can't do it. Shua. Long Xiang took a step forward, and his fist, which carried a strong psionic power, suddenly cut through the void and fiercely blasted over. Rupturing fist, high-grade mortal rank. So fast! Long Zishan was secretly shocked, but he did not hesitate to raise his fist and punch over, and a sound similar to a dragon's roar was heard. Dragon roar fist, high-grade mid-rank. Boom! Boom! Two loud sounds rang out almost at the same time, and layers of psionic power exploded and formed a wave of air that immediately spread out in the martial arts practice field. In the battle area, Long Xiang's right fist punched Long Zishan's chest. Long Zishan's fist also landed on his chest. Both of them were in an attacking posture. Thump 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 thump. Long Zishan explosively retreated, and then spat out a mouthful of blood. Long Xiang also retreated, but only one step. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he said, "Second cousin, I haven't seen you for a year, and your strength is only so. There was a difference in strength, but he had the upper hand. Rupturing fist victory. Shua. Long Patian, who was sitting on the chair, immediately stood up, his eyes flashing with shock. Just now, when the two of them exchanged blows, his son's explosive strength had already reached 80,000 jin, which was not inferior to an 8th grade martial master like Long Zishan. Could it be? His hands trembled, and he could not help but say, "My son is a 5th grade martial master?" Patriarch Long Jun Changshao, who was sitting next to him, said, don't be agitated, please sit down and watch the battle." How could Long Patian sit down? He just stood there and watched. The elders of the Long family were all dumbfounded. It was difficult for them to calm down after Long Xiang exploded with such a strong power. No, impossible. Long Zishan, who had been blasted to the point of vomiting blood, had a look of disbelief in his eyes. Judging from the aura that fellow was emitting, he was clearly only a 5th grade martial master. Why was his strength not inferior to his at all? Shua. Long Xiang rushed over once again, his right hand formed a palm, and shouted, "Mountain-splitting palm!" Who? The wind howled, and waves of air spread in all directions. Seeing this, Long Zishan took a step back and shouted angrily, "Arrogant dragon palm!" Hoo-hoo! Boom! Long Xiang directly broke through the condensed arrogant dragon palm, and used the back of his hand to slash at Long Zishan's left shoulder. The powerful force erupted like a flood. Wah! Long Zishan spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body flew up and landed heavily at the edge of the martial arts practice field. The direct descendants of the Long family were dumbstruck. In 2 moves, Long Zishan, who was known as one of the strongest direct descendants of the Long family, had been beaten to such a miserable state. Long Xiang walked over step by step, and stood in front of his injured second cousin. He looked down at him with the bearing of a strong man and said expressionlessly, "Have you broadened your horizons? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."